I think it's better now. All right. So as well, more time. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a lovely Tuesday evening. And today we're going to be having a replay of a conversation we had a while back about the connection between the Ibos and Ife people. Hint, a very quick one, or should I call it spoiler alert? There is no connection. All right. And it's important to make this very clear because folks are rewriting history, and it's also quite interesting that it's no longer just some people of the street just, making conjectures and saying all kinds of things. It's people in authority. It's the elite of the society. It's the king of, a very respected monarch in that part of the country who has taken it upon himself to just continue with the tradition of lambarization. So we're going to, try and interrogate the claims that he made. And there's some things that will not be in this video we're about to listen to. And afterwards, I'm going to, have a little conversation about it just to bring everything together. Okay. However, before we even get into the whole thing about what the king said, we're going to listen to some things that the same people have said in the past about the fact that they are from different parts of the world. You may have heard that before, but just in case you haven't, I think it's important for you to have that background. If you have, well, it's like a bonus track for you. So just get to listen to a bit of the things that they have to say, that they've had to say about themselves and where they're from. Just to tell you the fact that if a person has been telling you they're from everywhere and suddenly say they're from your place without any proof, you don't want to go around celebrating, that you have new family members. You want to actually ask if the person knows exactly what they're talking about. And the answer here is they absolutely do not. We're going to be talking about that later. Let me welcome folks on YouTube and Facebook once again. Thanks for being here. Please like and share the live so that folks on the platform will be able to see the live and come in to enjoy the show. All right. Okay, I think we're good now. We're good on YouTube. Brilliant. Took us a while, but we're finally here. At a day. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to, of course, start with the description, which is quite long because I wrote a full article about this. I guess I was exasperated. These people have been on this for a bit. And let me just start by saying, if you've been wondering what's it about, it's not, again, I like to preface many of the things that we're doing, just to make sure people understand what this is all about. This is not a person or a group of people or a live show or whatever dedicated to bashing any group. It's just that people cannot spend their lifetime rewriting Yoruba history, and then we just in the name of not wanting to rock the boat and in the name of quote-unquote national unity, just allow such things to fly. That's dangerous for us, our own selves and our children. So that's what this is about. It's about setting the record straight. Having said that, I shall now read the description of our video. So again, Ibos are not from Ife. The Obi of Onitsha was wrong. The claim that Ibos were the original inhabitants of Ile-Ife is a historical falsehood designed to misappropriate the foundational heritage of the Yoruba people. The Obi of Onitsha attempted to establish authority for this narrative by citing respected Yoruba scholars. Yet a review of those sources reveals zero evidence connecting the Igbo nation to the ancient city. This tactic uses the names of academic giants to mask a lie and project a sense of historical factuality where none exists. The scholarship cited remains entirely silent on any Igbo presence in the foundational layers of Ife civilization. Another Igbo chief extended this absurdity by claiming his people crowned the kings of Benin and instituted kingship across Yoruba land. This assertion remains preposterous for a group that historically prides itself on an acephalous structure defined by the phrase Igbo Enweze. The evolution of high political statecraft and central authority required centuries of development that the Igbo social structure never had. It is a logical impossibility for a group without a tradition of kingship to export a monarchical system to civilizations that had already perfected it. Linguistic manipulation serves as the primary tool for this historical heist. The deliberate shift from the traditional spelling of Igbo that's IBO to IGBO allows for the fraudulent claim that any Yoruba town containing the word Igbo or IGBO belongs to the southeast. A reference is often made to the presence of Igbo people in Ife history. However, the ancient inhabitants mentioned in Ife records are actually the Ugbo people, a Yoruba subgroup of the largest stock, now located in Ondo State, also referred to as Igbo, due to dialectal differences between central or eastern Yoruba and other regions. Similar to how Ule, house, and Ushu, yam in Ekiti or Ijesha, correspond to Ile and Ishu, Ugbo and Igbo represent the same Yoruba identity with dialectal differences in pronunciation. The use of Yoruba history to justify ownership in Yoruba land is an extension of the confusion regarding Igbo origins and an expansionist dream built on recent orthographic changes. Maintaining the spelling of Igbo as IBO is a requirement for historical clarity. The Igbo people of Southeast Nigeria used the spelling shift to lay claims on the heritage that they could never have created. It is weird when supposedly educated people claim that Igbos are the owners of Jebu Igbo, Igbomino, Igbora, Ejigbo, Oyigbo, or Igbo Shere. Indeed, any word containing IGBO is claimed by those who are confused about their past. This confusion was predicted in the 1960s by the British writer D.A.N. Jones, who noted that the change in the spelling of IBO Igbo would cause trouble for Yoruba towns like Ijebu Igbo. Sticking to the original spelling is essential when dealing with a group unwilling to come to terms with the reality of their history. The Igbo people adopted this spelling recently, as most books published until the 1960s utilized IBO. Give me a second, please. I think there's a little issue. All right. The Igbo people adopted this spelling recently, as most books published until the 1980s utilized the spelling IBO. It's a bizarre development for a group to adopt it and subsequently attempt to rewrite the history of others based on recent acquisition. Furthermore, the Obi of Onitsha claimed that various towns in Yoruba land bear the name Onitsha, O-N-I-S-A, and that proves a connection to Onitsha in Igbo land. This statement is entirely false, as there are no Onitsha locations anywhere in Yoruba land. Even if such names existed, a phonetic similarity between words in different languages does not establish a historical connection. The name Adelaide, a scholar would claim these are Yoruba cities based on sound alone. This identity crisis has led to a series of conflicting origin stories where the Igbo claim to have founded Israel, America, Europe, and Japan. The current attempt to annex the history of Ile-Ife is an extension of this confusion and must be rejected to preserve the integrity of indigenous records. Yoruba metropolitan centers like Igbomino, Igbora, Ejigbo, and Oyigbo are products of a distinct cultural evolution. Maintaining the original spelling of IBO, Igbo, is a requirement for the protection of Yoruba consciousness from expansionist myth designed to force a false sense of unity. Here is the Ibos are not from Ife. The Obi of Onitsha was wrong. Enjoy. Then we can move on to today's topic, which is a response to a particular video by the Obi of Onitsha. He's a respected monarch, but his historical claims are entirely, totally false, even though it was quoting authors whose books I happen to have. I'm going to read some of the things that those authors said, and we'll see the falsehood. And this will also answer a very important question: why I spell Igbo IBO. Thank you very much for listening to that. Now let's get to the topic. So let me start by saying this. I'm going to try as much as possible to be calm. There's some of the claims made in the videos I'm going to be playing that are so ridiculous, you wonder how people at that level could utter such words. When I say people, the particular person I'm talking about is actually Obi of Onitsha. He's a monarch, right? Respected, But there's something I find about these dishonest narratives. It's how a person can make a claim, most times baseless, and then quote authors that he knows that certain people that may want to counter him, would say, oh, these authors are from our place. He quotes those authors to make baseless claims and then sends you on an errand, on a fool's errand. Go and verify. It's not fair. When I use the word fair, it's not because I think it's unfair. It's because it's not fair to their own people. See, to Yoruba people, we can take it, but at this point, we're not taking it any longer. We'll be setting the record straight because you cannot change Yoruba history because you have none. And this is a general thing. Before I play this video, because I was listening to the video while someone was speaking, okay, there's a particular level you get to, you expect that. I mean, people can make mistakes. Even kings can make mistakes. After all, they're humans. They could make mistakes. Maybe they're trying to say something. But when you begin to quote, and begin to say, go and look at this, go and look at that, I'm like, these books are here. Nothing you're saying is inside these things. Why are you doing this? It's because you're trying to give legitimacy to a false claim. So ordinarily, the fact that you're an authority figure, there's already a bias in people's minds. Then to now quote other authority figures like writers shows that you know exactly what you're doing. And it's ridiculous that it's coming from people that society is supposed to be holding, in high esteem. I'm going to play a shorter version. This one is funny. It's just a claim. But the Obi of Onitsha, I will come back to that one because I want to be calm when I listen to that. I think I'm like, I don't know why I would say that. But let's take it. Let's start with this one. Is an Igbo chief. I don't even know his name. And he's in his own mind. They were the ones who determined the king of Benin and the kings of Yoruba people. They are Igbo. Same people who have no kings, according to them, by the way. Igbo and Wednesday. But now they are the ones that lead. Listen to it. I mean, let's hear it from the horse's mouth so he can determine whatever it is that he's saying. I don't want to say it for him. Take a listen to. This is nonsense. But take a listen to it.
That's how my job came in. And the study was done. And it was confirmed that it's not only that we had kingship as far back as 900 before every other civilization in Nigeria, but that this kingship was so pervasive that it determined how the Oba of Benin was installed. And from the confessions of the Oni of Ife of today, it also included, mark you, with a question mark, needs to be research and investigated, that we instigated the founding of Obashi in Yoruba land. Say anybody who doesn't like it, let it go and commission a study.
So I'm going to make a ridiculous claim, and then I'll tell you that if you don't like it, go and commission a study. Who talks like that? The burden of proof is on the person making the claim. You can't say whatever you like and tell me to go and verify. That's nonsense. You're saying that you're the ones that determine the kings in Benin, which is absolutely ridiculous because we know when the Oba dynasty started and how it started. We know when the Ogiso dynasty started and how it started. We even know when the Ogiame got in there and how it started. It had nothing to do with Igbo people. Right? So you're going to talk about how you determine the kings of Benin, which is insulting enough. You now say you're the one that initiated the Obaship in Yoruba land. And then you're now saying that if you don't agree, go and commission study. What kind of rubbish is that? Why should I commission study into a claim I did not make? You made the claim, you have to substantiate it. This is what happens when people don't know their history. And just so that you don't think I'm making anything up, I'm sure I've played this before, but it's important to play it again so you understand the level of insanity that will make people just change other people's history in order to make themselves feel comfortable. And it's exasperating, it's insulting at this point. But we're going to listen to some claims. I think you must have heard some of these things before, but humor me, please. Take a listen to some of these claims or where they came from. Take a listen. Let's start with America.
You ask anybody, the name America is an Igbo name. America is an Igbo name. The real meaning is Emerigomunka. Ask anybody, the founder of America is a black. No matter what is taking place today. And that will take us back. You, the English people, said civilization started in Africa. Yes, it started here.
There's not like Igbo. There was Bo GBO. The woman named called Bo who gave birth to Irupa. Irupa, the one that ruled Europe. Yeah, Europa.
Europa, okay.
Irupa is the woman's name. The grandmother's name is Bo. There's not like Igbo.
Whoever edited that video with Jesus my brain won't blow. By the way, did you hear what that guy is, the first man said? He said, go and ask anybody. What is the same thing that other person also said? If you want to go and ask, almost all of them use that phrase, go and ask anybody. Why should I ask anybody?
So go and ask anybody what my business is.
Anyway, this one is saying that. So the first one is the America. This one is not like Igbo. It's also Bo. Let's finish it and go to something else.
Bo, like there's not like Igbo. There was Bo GBO. The woman named called Bo who gave birth to Irupa. Irupa, the one that ruled Europe. Yeah, Europa.
Europa, okay.
Irupa is the woman's name. The grandmother
is to mark the killing of our Lord Jesus Christ, Emmanuel. He was crucified right here in Owerri, all shrine of the abomination of the district. But the mistransliteration led to Ekwemarugo, but Ekwe, skull, Oma, temple.
They are from Israel. They are from Japan. There's one about Japan. There's one about Israel. There's one about, of course, I think one of the most, okay, there's Europe, there's America. One of the craziest one is the one about the Zulus, right? They're changing the Zulu story. Oh, I found some of the things. I found some. Let's listen to a few before we go. We're going to what they said about Ife, but I want you to, so you can appreciate what I will say when the time comes. Listen to some of these things first, please. All right, a few more stuff. This one is Japan.
Japanese government said they are interested. I have to come because the first time I told the people that the Igbo people gave birth to Japan, they said I am crazy. I shut my mouth. Later, Japanese government said they are interested. I have to come. Because when I got there, I am going to show them why the Japanese answer names like Ogwe Jofo, Ngozeka.
The Japanese?
Yes. If you go to Kanagawa in Japan, you see that the Igbo people gave birth to Japan. When I told them that the Igbo people gave birth to the Harappan and the Dravidian civilization of India, people said that I am crazy. But when I pointed Igbo things in India, in Hindu, in Sanskrit, everybody shut up. I asked them, why was the Ibuku road port exhumed from Ibuku bearing Sanskrit writings on the body? Because the Igbo people introduced Sanskrit. But the problem is this: you have been made to believe, not know. You get my point? Someone belittled your heritage and told you that your history started from slavery, not knowing that your ancestors has been here for more than 1.6 million years.
When you read the Bible very well, when you find out that before they get to that place where Israel is dwelling today, the tribe of God has a place for them, their children and their people. They didn't get to the Israel with the people. They fight and get to the place. Now, that will take me to another place, because we keep telling why we say this is that when they wrote Bible, we are not there. But when you see that from Genesis to Malachi, it's our history and it's our tradition.
I want to make sure that I understand you. Yeah. You said that place, Israel. When you say Israel, what area you're talking about? Where is this Israel?
Israel is now where people are living now as Israel now. But the original Israel is here. I told you, go and do your research. Since the creation of the world,
yes,
this place you are living has never been destroyed.
So you had go and do your research, go and verify, ask anybody, go and do your research, commission something. They will give you just make one ridiculous claim, then you go and verify. The person who is making that claim has nothing to substantiate what he's saying, but you should go and verify. But I'm going somewhere. Please stay with me. So where are we now? We've gone to America. There's Europe. There's the fact that it's Imo State that Jesus was born. That gentleman. Maybe you should listen to everything before we go deep.
Not a New Yam festival. It is to mark the killing of our Lord Jesus Christ, Manuel. He was crucified right here in Owerri, where at Ugwekwe Marugo. Ekwe Oma Aru Ogo, the skull shrine of the abomination of the district. But the mistransliteration led to Ekwe Marugo. But Ekwe, skull, Oma, temple, Aru Ogo, the skull shrine of the abomination of the district. So to mark that crucifixion, the leaders from time immemorial, who were the people who led his crucifixion, right here, mark it and remember it in an annual celebration to mark this sorrow of the crucifixion of the person who were called Manuelu. Manuelu is somebody that came from above, which you call in English Emmanuel. Now, what had happened here was that at about the time Christ was born, right here in Owerri, and he was called Manuel, the leaders, his own people, did not trust what he was saying. You walk with your father. The father was called Onyo Jeson Afo Joseph. And they had a shop on this Ekonwa Street here. You call it Ekonwa Street, but the correct thing is Eke Ono Wa Osisi. Eke Ono Wa Osisi. The marketplace, the Eke marketplace where he split wood, because he had a shop at the junction of Ekonwa and Ihenacho Street. That whole area is called Orubunjamanze. That's what it's called. Orubunjamanze, that is not correctly called, is the...
So I need to go now. So okay. Jesus is a Nigerian.
Yeah, Jesus is a Nigerian.
So which part of Nigeria?
From Ibo. I'm from Ibo.
Which part of Ibo?
Imo State.
Imo State.
Imo State. Where Imo is that Mpocho.
Oh, okay. It's good to hear Jesus is from Nigeria. And Jesus is coming back through you. You are Virgin Mary. You are the, Jesus.
And the mother of Jesus. Jesus, God is from Nigeria. Well, and the mother of Jesus, and the mother of Jesus, I was the. God have made me to know that I'm the mother of Jesus. This revelation have been coming to me since 2015. I've gotten several revelations through me over 2,000.
Oh, through you.
Through me, yes, through the Virgin Mary.
You were the Virgin Mary.
Yes, according to the revelation I'm getting, it made me to know that I was the Virgin Mary.
Oh.
And Jesus is coming through me again in this earth.
Oh.
This time. Jesus is going to reincarnate.
Through you.
Through me, by the grace and mercy of God and the will of God. That's what God has chosen me to do.
Oh, okay.
And he will come here and be born here. And the way
Words of this one, because this one actually makes me feel bad for her. Like it's as if there's something somewhere, but I feel bad for her because at least she is just saying what she, but these other ones are claiming. Well, there are some people that actually spend time to read books and come and give us lamba. This one.
Yes, the whole in the book series, as we go along the several volumes of the book, you will see that the 360 pharaohs, we call them in Igbo, Eferoha, your worship of the people. We are all Ibos. They were the people who built the pyramids. They were the people who invented writing. They were the people who invented the battery circuits. I show it in the book. I actually show typical battery circuits which were invented then. I actually show the aeroplane with perfect tetrahedral structure, which has been tested by companies like Lockheed Martin. The models, they have been put in a wind tunnel and they fly. So that means even today's technology, even with the today's technology, the engineers have not even achieved this level of perfection as we speak. So the Ibos really were the kings of ancient Israel. They were the pharaohs. They were the people we know as Carthaginians, and then some of them are known as Phoenicians. So
from Israel, the Egyptians, the Carthaginians, the Phoenicians, they're the original pharaohs, and these are the same people that are claiming Ife. Just to give you an idea that you are dealing with serious mental issue. All right, before we're going to read books, so there's a lot of books we're going to cover today. Okay, but let me just tell you before we get into it that this conversation is not so much to convince people that don't know where they're from. It's to tell you about people we have to use the opportunity to learn our own history so that we know exactly what's happening and what people are trying to do. If a person is from everywhere, he's from nowhere. So you've read all kinds of things, right? You've heard America, you've heard Japan, you've heard Europe, you've heard Israel, you've heard Egypt, right? Then the ones that said that Jesus Christ is from Imo State, he used to be a carpenter. The man actually said it boldly, you know. But then there's another one that said, he said Jesus was a carpenter. He used to have something around one street in Imo State. So there's another one who talked about the fact that they own South Africa. And once we're done with this, we'll now get into the topic proper, okay? Here is a very interesting exchange. This happened between an Igbo person and a Zulu man. Take a listen, please.
What does Zulu mean to you? What does the word Amazulu mean? Since you say
Zulu is a name, like I told you, the father of Zulu, which is Nkosinkulu Malandela. He had two sons. He named one Zulu and named one Kwabe. So if you ask me now what is the meaning, we should be asking the father that gave birth to them.
But you said Tina Amazulu, we're from Nigeria, and I'm saying to you is, what does Zulu mean? Zulu has a very specific name. What does it mean?
Hello, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes.
I'm saying to you, since you said Tina Amazulu were from Nigeria, what does the word Zulu mean?
We are, because I use Zulu now. If I use Nkulumalo, you might not know what I'm talking about. I use Zulu because it's what we use now. We know now. All right, but your progenitor, the ancestry of Zulu, where Zulu came from at the later stage, the Nkulumalo that was banished in Igbo land for wrong deed. He then went to the Bantu. First place he learned to was Bantu
I hear
tribe
what you're saying.
of Congo.
What you're saying, but my question to you is, what does Zulu mean? That's what
you can't ask me what it means, because
I can, because you're saying hang on, you're saying we're from Nigeria.
You can as well ask me. You can as well ask me what does Nkosinkulu mean, or what does I am telling you the meaning of Nkulumal. I've told you the one that related to Igbo is the one that can tell you what it means. Nkulumalo, of which you come that side and corrupted it to Kumaro. That is the linkage. So the Zulu was the child he gave birth at a later stage. There were so many kings before the father of Zulu was born. Before Zulu, I don't know if you understand.
I don't think you're understanding my question.
But at the very same time, don't try too hard, man. Don't try too hard. You know, sometimes when you try too hard, you become fake sometimes. Because people, when they come and say, no, I've done this, I came up with this research, you look at the person and you say, is this person for real? Am I talking to human here, or maybe some kind of AI? I don't know, sometimes, you know, some people are delusional in such a way that they even forget that they are human themselves. Let's actually come up with facts and not claim things that we do are factual. When you come up with a discovery, if you are doing research, where is the paper that you are actually writing this? Where you can't even tell us about the sources. You can't even reference whatever you're saying. You just come up with these are facts. Yes. Facts. Why can't you just say, according to this and that, there was in my paper, there was according to this.
Wait, there was a guest before you, of which they had made such an observation, of which I accepted
that guest with
all right, because I am bound to correction, to be corrected. It's fine. I'm okay. But
yeah, you look a little bit matured, but I don't understand. I don't know. You look matured, so I'm worried where you are actually pushing this narrative.
You know the audacity that it takes to tell a person that he is the one, that his fathers corrupted their name after the father did something wrong in Igbo land and was chased out of Igbo land and now found his way to South Africa. This is a mental problem. Like you can't be from everywhere. It's I'm not throwing a jab. I'm not trying to be insulting. It's seriously, you know, when, and I said this yesterday, it's the truth. It's the truth. Buhari, he said he was going to establish 15 psychiatric hospitals in the southeast in every senatorial district. It's not a joke. It's not a like laughing matter. It's not like it's a serious issue. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Right? It's a very serious issue, and I'm not saying this to insult anybody. It's just it's serious. There's one here who was quoting Genesis and said that they are from Eri and that they are the sons of God. How can you be from everywhere? When I start getting to Ife, we'll come home. We'll now read books. There are many things we're going to study today. But just to appreciate the wonderful nature of the people we are discussing here. And God bless everybody. Good people, great nation. But you cannot be... You've done it to everybody. Don't come to Ife. That's my own point. Just one or two more. This one is from Uncle Omar. Sorry. This one is from Eri. Eri, who is an Igala man, by the way. Eri is an Igala man. but somehow he's now their progenitor. It's okay. This one is telling a South African that the progenitor did something wrong in Igbo land and that he changed his name. If they slap this one and not say that those people are xenophobic. Anyway, take a listen to this interesting one.
To the ancestral and ancient home of the Igbo nation and Biafra in general. Behind me is where we call Obugad, the all popular Obugad, the ancestral and ancient home of the patriarch of the entire Igbo nation.
God in one case of Israel is here back. Mobile is here back. And the mine are the one my blue night. Okay, no, baby. Be ever. You know, okay, let's know one.
So, Gad, by the way, was the son of Jacob, and he gave birth to his children. And now called one of them and said that those people are now Ibos. Anyway, that's the story they've shared. Now we're going to go back to the first one we played. Then I'll read you an article, a few articles that will now listen to the Obi of Onitsha, and they will now properly study. Okay? So just this one, and they will now go to the articles. Take a listen to the first video we listened to in this section. Ẹkáàbọ, take a listen, please.
That's how major came in. And the study was done, and it was confirmed that it's not only that we had kingship as far back as 900, before every other civilization in Nigeria, but that this kingship was so pervasive that it determined how the Oba of Benin was installed. And from the confessions of the Oni of Ife of today, it also included, mark you, with a question mark, needs to be precise and investigated, that we instigated the founding of Obaship in Yoruba land. Say anybody who doesn't like it, let him go and commission a study.
So like I said earlier, it makes no sense for you to make claims and then put the burden of proof on your listeners. You are the one who is making the claim. You should be the one to bear the burden of proof. You tell us exactly where you found it. Don't tell us to go and verify anything. That's one. Now, he mentioned something about the Oni. We're going to get to that later. But let me read you something here. This is from Chinachebe's Things Fall Apart, a case book edited by Isidore Kwekwo. It says, Igbo society is historically egalitarian and democratic in the sense that the people have slowly. Igbo society is historically egalitarian and democratic in the sense that the people have never had rulers with anything approaching autocratic powers. According to Green, the Igbo have no hierarchy of powers rising from a broad democratic basis through ascending levels to one central peak. Rather, Igbo democracy, unlike English, works through a number of juxtaposed groups and a system of balances rather than on a unitary hierarchical principle. The egalitarian principle is expressed in the famous statement, Igbo enweze, the Igbo do not have kings. This is from Chinachebe's Things Fall Apart, a case book that was edited by Isidore Okwewu. Here's the thing. If you have written for whatever how long, espousing the ideals that you are democratic in nature, you are egalitarian, whatever that means, and that you don't have central authority, you are cephalous, you don't have heads in your spaces, how then is it that you're going back in time to not only create leaders for yourselves, but to say that you are the ones that appointed the heads or the kings of other communities? That's an overreach, and it's a product of inferiority. You know you'd never had this things. But not only are you ascribing those things to yourself, which will be bad enough, you're not telling the world that, hey, we are the ones that made you a king. Imagine Igbo people telling Benin that I'm not Benin. I have second-hand embarrassment because Benin, the monarch in Benin is connected with Yoruba. So to say, you never did. And I'm trying not to talk about the relationship between Benins and Ibos. I'm struggling not to talk about it. Hint, it's not a relationship of peers. It was not a relationship of peers. Let me just stop there. But to say that Ibos are the one that determined the kings of Benin, it's insulting. Then to say you're the one that initiated, look at that word, that's what they use, initiated the Obaship system in Yoruba land. How now? Now we're going to go back to the first one we played. Then I'll read you an article, a few articles that will now listen to the Obi of Onitsha, and they will now properly study. Okay? So just this one, and they will now go to the articles. Take a listen to the first video we listened to in this section. Ẹkáàbọ, take a listen, please.
That's how
I'm not Benin. I have second-hand embarrassment because Benin, the monarch in Benin is connected with Yoruba. So to say, you never did. I'm trying not to talk about the relationship between Benins and Ibos. I'm struggling not to talk about it. Hint, it's not a relationship of peers. It was not a relationship of peers. Let me just stop there. But to say that Ibos are the one that determined the kings of Benin, it's insulting. Then to say you're the one that initiated, look at that word, that's what they use, initiated the Obaship system in Yoruba land. How now? Now, he mentioned the Oni. I'm going to read something to you from Vanguard newspaper. This was from 2019. Oni of Ife Obade Enitogunwusi has reaffirmed his position on the family ties between Yoruba and Igbo nations, that the Igbos are from Ile-Ife, saying the two major ethnic groups in Nigeria are inseparable members of the same family. Oni Ogunwusi said it this weekend at his Ile-Oòduà Palace in Ile-Ife while receiving the president of Ohaneze Ndigbo in Lagos State, Chief Solomon Ogbonna, who accompanied the delegation of African farmers and cultural organization on a courtesy visit to the palace. In a statement by his chief press secretary, Moses Olafare, Ogunwusi said, "I'm so happy to have the president of Ohaneze Ndigbo, Lagos State here as part of this empowerment initiative. The monarch said Lagos is part of Yoruba land and we are all one. We are all the same. The history is there. The facts are there. And we should actually put these things out. Why are we fighting? This is your root." I said it recently. Some of our Yoruba kinsmen, ignorance of history, came out to berate my position on the family ties between Yoruba and Igbo people. We have to say the truth. We are blood brothers. We should be inseparable. Please feel free at home in Yoruba land and respect your Yoruba brothers and sisters too. We still have a house of Igbo right in the palace till date. We call it Ile Igbo till now. Our ancestors are buried and transfigured there. That is where kola nut was first discovered and nurtured. So he said all of those things. The ancient Igbo house is one of the most sacred places in the palace till date. Then talked about Akarigbo of Remoland. He also maintained that it is the reincarnated spirit of his ancestors and so on and so forth. So after saying all of those things, the Ibos now responded. In his remarks, the president of Ohaneze, I will explain everything though. In his remarks, in fact, let me stop to explain. Is there Ile Igbo in Ife today? Yes. Were there Igbo people in Ife in the past? Yes. Are they still in Ife today? Yes. Are they the same people as folks in the southeast? No. As a matter of fact, this is why, in case you've not heard me say it before, this is why I spell Igbo as IBO, because that's what they've always been. They are not Igbo people. even in their own language, the gbi is aggressive. They say it inside. They never say gbi in Igbo. It's Igbo. It's like BW. If you read the book by G.T. Baston, it was published in 1921, it was explained that the best way to actually pronounce Igbo is Igbo, I-B-W-O, because they don't pronounce it like we do. When Yoruba people pronounce gbi, it's ingressive. O ma dun ninu gb. Táwọn bá sọ, ó máa dàbí pé wọ́n fẹnu re. All right? The phonology is different. They never say gb. They say bo, Igbo. Oba is not Igbo. That's one. Number two, the Igbo in Ife are not the same thing as folk in the Southeast. We're going to go deeper in some of these things today. There's no connection between Igbo people and Ife people and Igbo people. And to climb on the history because of similarity in spelling that you just adopted less than 50 years ago, it's intellectually lazy. In other words, you are Igbo, IBO, you adopted IGBO, you now look around. Who else has IGBO in the lexicon or in the orthography? Oh, you are from us, we are connected. We are not connected. So everything Kabisi said, I'll quickly break it down. When he said there's Igbo in Ife, it is true. When he said that Igbos were originally from Ife, it is true. They call them the Oluyaris. Okay? It's true. But that group is a Yoruba subgroup. The Igbo or the Ugbo. And I'll explain what changed, why the name is, why they have two different pronunciations. Igbo or Ugbo, they are Yoruba people. And they are now Ilaje, they are in the Ondo state today. But there are still remnants of those people in Ife. We go read book today. There's remnants of those people in Ife. Those ones are Yoruba people. The Ibos of the Southeast have nothing in common with Yoruba people. We are not related. All these things are just political clinical. We are all brothers. Now, when Oni said that the folks from Igbo land are all from Yoruba land, let me tell you something. In Yoruba mythology, we believe, okay, that the entire earth, this world, was created in Ife. As a matter of fact, when missionaries arrived in Ife in the 1850s, when David Nedera got to Ife, you know what they told him? They told him that his father's people, like his ancestors, were made in Ife. They were created in Ife. They said the same thing to Henry Higgins in 1886, that even the English monarchs, their kings, that the kings were created in Ife. In other words, as far as we are concerned, the entire world started in Ife, and every human being is from Ife, even if you are white. And that's why we don't have that inferiority complex when we deal with people who say, because you are Oyibo, it doesn't matter to me. If you like, be Oyibo, be cream, be white, yellow, you are from Ife. In other words, this is your home. You have only come to visit home. You have come to pay homage. You have come to, it's like a pilgrim's journey as far as Yoruba people are concerned. As a matter of fact, in the olden days, when people died in different parts of Yoruba land, there's an assumption that they would have to walk through Ife to go to heaven. Heaven is not what you think, what we think it is, right, that you go to the sky. There's literally a place in Ife called Orun. Okay? My aunt, they had this awareness, right, to not look for anything outside themselves. The world began there. The earth began there. Everybody was created there. So whether you are English, you're German, you're French, you're Hausa, you are Benin, you are even Igbo, you were created there. But you see, those who, like if you listen to everything we've said since, or everything we listened to since we started, those who are from everywhere, when they don't say we are from Japan, we are from Israel, we are from America, we are from Europe, the next thing is that since you are saying that we're also from Ife, we might as well just claim Ife that we're the ones that were there. That did not happen. Ibos and Yoruba, the Ibos of Southeast are not the Ibos that are Yoruba subgroup, and they are not connected. assured Oni Ogunwusi that the Igbo people hold him in high esteem and will always appreciate his efforts in unifying all the races in Nigeria to peacefully coexist as one inseparable family, calling him an uncommon bridge builder who is well loved and respected across Africa. However, reacting to the statement from Ooni's Palace yesterday, National Deputy Publicity Secretary of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, this is not somebody on the roadside. This is the apex socio-political group of Igbo land. Ohanaeze Ndigbo, sorry, I'll take that again. Reacting to the statement from the Ooni's Palace yesterday, National Deputy Publicity Secretary of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chuks Ibegbu, said Igbo people were the original occupants and owners of Ile-Ife before the arrival of the Yoruba. This is insanity. It's just that we realize I am a he says here that they, from across the Niger, were the original occupants and owners of Ile-Ife before the arrival of the Yoruba. The reaction by Ohanaeze reads, Odudunwa. The same way this clown went to change the spelling of the name of folks in South Africa, Zulu, and say Imanikazu, Zekekalu, just talking rubbish. They don't change the spelling of Odudua too. And I'm doing this particularly because of two reasons. Number one, somebody sent me a video to react to. I've not even played that video yet. Another person said something yesterday that they said, oh, Batola is from Igbo land. It's insanity. We have to be telling ourselves the truth at this point. So that whatever is stopping Buhari's project of 15 psychiatric centers in the southeast, that thing has to be removed. We've got to make that thing happen. They should build those places. Stay with me. The reaction by Ohanaeze reads, Odunduwa, last born, later called Oduduwa, was an Igbo prince who occupied Ile-Ife, but the Yorubas saw him as a god because he was very powerful and had magical powers. The Yorubas learned and spoke Igbo language then, and that is the reason for the similarity between Igbo and Yoruba language. So you look around, you find the apex sociocultural group in Igbo land, and when they're going to speak, what came out of their mouth is something as if they're puking. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. So not only have you changed, so now in the name of inclusivity, oh, we are all from Ife, you have now said, hey guys, now we own them before you. Then number two, even your progenitor, we're going to change his name and tell you that he's actually originally Igbo. I pause because waiting won't come out of my mouth is no good. The point is that there is a major problem in the southeast. It has to do with the problem of identity. The Igbo identity was created by the British, and all of them don't know where they're from. And it's okay to claim whatever you want to claim, but it's insulting when you tell people that you own the, Ife is not just a place, it's the source of we Yoruba people. So when you look, whatever you drank that made you now say that you were the original occupants or original owners of that place, you have to be insane. All this one that I was speaking, PC, political correctness, is rubbish. This is insanity. And that's why I say that speak up for Lagos, regardless of where you are from. It's not about Lagos, it's about Yoruba land. Why? In 1955, I read the speech here the other day. Maybe I should read it again. I hope I can quickly find it. The speech that was delivered in Chatham House by Sir John McPherson. Give me a sec, I'm going to find it for you. It was delivered in Chatham House by Sir John McPherson. He talked about the particular needs that folks from the Southeast have. And I think that changing history might be one of the ways they want to use to getting that vision actualized, but it no go work. Give me a second. Now here is where it gets interesting. I thought I didn't open it because I didn't think I was going to read it, but we are here, we're going to find it together. Stay with me, please. It's important. And what you find here really is that whatever it is that we're dealing with right now in Nigeria, it's always been there. What's happening to us is that we act like Kokowa, like he's not really there, but it's there, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous because folks are going online, changing articles, going to Wikipedia, changing stuff, and that's what people are going to read. That's what researchers are going to read. That's what our children are going to read growing up before they get into real books. We want to make sure that we provide the alternative, and in this case, as always, the alternative is the truth. They are the ones whose lives depend on lies. You know what? Give me a second. I'll find you that thing. I want to read it, because if I say these things without reading them, people might think that one is making something up, and that's why they start shouting, "You hate us, you hate." Nobody hates it. Nobody. People are not even worth hating. Nobody is worth hating, as far as I am concerned. Mombo, give me a second. If I find it, God is good. Found it. It's from the Royal Institute of International Affairs. By the way, you can get this on Chatham online if you're able to register. Record of general meeting held at Chatham House on Thursday, 20 October 1955. The subject is the Federation of Nigeria. The speaker is John McPherson. We did an entire show on it. If you go on our YouTube channel, you'll find Declassified, why Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo are the way they are. It's right there on our YouTube channel, Busui Oris. But let me read some things to you about the folks from the Southeast. This is from McPherson, 1955. The East, unlike the other two regions, so you had spoken about the North, talked about the fact that they had emirs and they had, leadership, and that they had issues with Western education. Talked about the Yoruba people, that says the West is the wealthiest of the regions, largely because most of the cocoa is grown there. The people have had long connection with Europe and Europeans. They are sophisticated, well-off, and comfortable. I'm referring more particularly to the Yoruba, who are the main tribe in the West. In recent years, the Yoruba people and other people of the West have been steered out of a certain easygoing lethargy under the leadership of a vigorous group of intellectuals who want them to face the possibility of a challenge from the vigorous people from the Eastern region. Okay? That was our reality in 1955. Well, there's comfortable everything, but there was lethargy, and it took a certain group of intellectuals to arouse and steer people out of that lethargy. And we're talking about Egbe Mojutua, that eventually now morphed into Action Group in 1951. Okay, this was 1955. So it says here, the East, unlike the other two regions, is not at all feudal. They have chiefs of a sort, but the fact is that when the British administration took over there was no indigenous authority higher than the head of an extended family or a small clan. These are the people that gave everybody kings. The highest authority was the head of a small clan. But they're the ones that initiated the Obaship in Europe. It's madness. By the way, this madness I'm saying, if you notice, I'm also very careful the way I'm saying it. It's the mildest thing I can say. There are worse things that come to mind. There are worse things coming to my mind, but I can't utter terrible stuff. Because you wonder how people can have that audacity to change other people's history and say, we made you kings. You couldn't even have kings. You never built. You know what? Let's read. Where were we? You never built cities, let alone empires. You never had concentrated power. You never had complex political structures. You never. Now, Nigeria open people eye, can't they talk to anybody anyhow? And nonsense now. More really small, I beg. So it says here, there was no indigenous authority higher than the head of an extended family or small clan. In the eastern region, there is pressure of population on poor soils. Listen to this. In the eastern region, there is pressure of population on poor soils, that's soily. And the dominant tribe in the east, the Ibos, who are a vigorous, thrustful, pushful people, avid for education, wait for it, would like to have Lebensraum, or at least opportunity in other parts of the country. For that reason, I think it can be said that in general, they are more keen on a united or unified Nigeria than are the people of the other regions. And why? Because they had smaller spaces. They wanted Lebensraum. Lebensraum means living spaces. and I went deep into it in that video. If you watch it, you're going to get the details. It's a Nazi ideology. And I said in that video that there are two major things, or three, that you find. Three. I'm going to add one more. I've actually said it in different ways over time. There's some things you're going to find copied straight from Nazi textbook, and you find in the Igbo as an ethnicity based on the introduction of those things by the educated elites in Igbo society. I'm not saying all Igbo people grew up like that. I'm saying that it was introduced by those who went to school. Number one is the idea of ethnic supremacy, the Aryan race. It's a Nazi ideology. We are superior to everybody. And you see it in Azikiwe's own speech in 1949. The God of Africa has specially created the Igbo people to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. He specially created the Igbo people. That's Aryan race mentality. The idea basically is that there's superiority to other people. Okay? And you also see it in many of the speeches that you had before then. But I want to stay with that particular one because it's quite popular. 1949, June 25 in Aba. Ezekwe was talking as though this is the same Zeke that told us that we have no ethnicity. So forget how did he write it in his book? He wrote a book in 1934, The Renaissance of Africa. The Renaissance of Africa has no ethnicity, ethnic affinities bring ethnic idiosyncrasies. We should remove every ethnicity, whether you're Yoruba or Igbo or Tuareg or Fon or whatever. We are all human beings. That's what he said. Then Lebensraum. Lebensraum is the idea of living spaces where you think of expanding into other people's territory and not take advantage of their resources, which is actually the primary reason for Biafra. Well, one of the primary reasons. The other one is the ego of one man, but we'll talk about that some other time. The idea basically is to have what belongs to others and use the word unity as a crutch. You just keep shouting unity, 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 then you can own what belongs to me. I have to deliver it to you because I have to prove that I'm united with you. I'm not united like that. The other thing is victimhood. Victimhood is a strategy that was perfected in the 1940s. And if you read, I think I read the other day, if you read Sir Arthur Richards, he had this meeting, just like McPherson had. They had a meeting in 1947 January, right? I've mentioned this, so I have to read it. This is the thing with, I'm coming back to this, but we'll tie everything together, then we'll go deeper. Stay with me, please. I'm going to read something to you from Arthur Richards. So he said that they clamored for more and more of everything, that they contributed the least as far as revenues go or went back in the 1940s. They contribute. I mean, if you read, you remember what we just read now in 1955, they said the West was the richest and everything. But like I always say, it's not to say, oh, we're richer than everybody. It's not about that. For Yoruba people, it's not so much to say, oh, we're richer than them. It's the lesson from that statement that there was this form of lethargy and that it took a vigorous intellectual, group to steer Yoruba people out of the lethargy, because we're just having this lackadaisical kind of laissez-faire thing, like it doesn't really matter. It matters now. Thank you, Prof. The superiority complex is that thing. Erin folk, yes, Erin folk. German words, so but we're going somewhere today. We're going to have a great time. Trust me. I'm going to come to you from, this is the funny thing. This thing sometimes, I'm going to tell you what's in there. 1947 January, they were having a meeting, and just like John McPherson, the previous, the succeeding Governor General, Arthur Richards said that the North paid its taxes, but the East had the least revenue, but they clamor for more and more of everything, including education and everything. They're always clamoring. And when you look at Azikiwe's speech of 1949, you also see that same thing. We are the victim of this, we are the victim of that, we are the victim of this. Victimhood is a strategy, not the reality. But because it's a strategy and it has been so internalized, it does not become reality. So good luck to those who decide to stay with that. So back to the stuff. I don't want to go to too many books. Back to the stuff by Macpherson. He said that they had no chiefs like that. He said they had chiefs of a sort, but when the British administration took over, there was no indigenous authority higher than the head of an extended family or small clan. If you don't have higher than the head of a small clan, how are you the one determining the kings of Benin and Yoruba people? Could make sense, Abi. I'm glad you know that as well. Let me read some other things to you. So that's what they said on it. I'm going to go deeper into it, but just understand the fact that the idea of Igbo is not new. Igbos have been in Yoruba land for thousands of years, but they are not Ibos. Meanwhile, you have to join the movement. Spell people's names the way it should be spelled. Folks in the southeast is IBO. And by the way, there's a time they changed that name, and somebody gave a prophecy, almost like a prophecy about what they were doing. I think I should read that before I go to other things. Somebody gave a prophecy about the name change and how it was going to be confusing. The man's name was D.A.N. Jones. He wrote, this was in the 1960s. He says, "Sir, reading the articles on African rights in October 17, I noticed," by the way, the title of this is Igbo and Igbo. I wish I could show you. IBO and IGBO. "Sir, reading the articles on African writing, October 17, I noticed that Margaret Peel and I both refer to the Igbo tribe, IBO, while Nadine Godima and Molly M. Mahood refer to the Igbo tribe, IGBO. A spelling new to me. Is it current in academic circles? A press officer at Nigeria House tells me that Igbo, IBO, is the more standard spelling, and that he thinks of IGBO, Igbo, as referring to the language rather than the people. A representative of the BBC Hausa service tells me that the words are interchangeable, but that the BBC uses Igbo, IBO. I would be glad to know if there's any reason for changing the usual spelling. The new one might cause confusion. I myself once lived in a Yoruba town called Ijebu Igbo. Have you seen some stark mad people saying that Igbo mean no Ijebu Igbo or anything that has to do with Igbo has something to do with Igbo? It has to be madness. When they say this change of spelling, somebody raised the thing here. Say this thing is going to cause confusion because I used to live in Ijebu Igbo and they don't use which one is Igbo and Igbo, which one is correct. So to be able to allay everybody's Ejigbo, how can Ejigbo be Igbo land? Igbo Shere. That's how one Lagos politician went to write one ridiculous article the other time and said, "Kilorúkọ bí tán kíní wà yìí o, kì í ṣe Igbo Shere. Only ibìkan lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tó ní Igbo nínú, kì í ṣe Igbo Shere." Is it Igbo Shere? There's another one. There's another place in Lagos. And the person said that Oyigbo, thank you, Mr. Remy, thank you, Oyigbo. That Igbo people were the ones that settled in that area and it became Oyigbo. That is Onye Igbo. Oye Okomasora Darada. And we're not supposed to talk because when we speak, that means that we are bigots. But guess what? Nobody cares. We shall set the record straight. So rewriting Oduduwa, also, like I said earlier, is similar to what they did with the Zulu story in South Africa, where they changed the person and say Nkulumalu is the one that was the original man that left Igbo land, but he committed something terrible and he did something terrible in the Igbo land. They now banished him. So basically, the ancestors of the Zulu people was banished as a terrible person from Igbo land. That insanity is what you also see here. Somebody saying it's not Oduduwa, it's Odudunwa, and that they are the ones that let him go. And his original Igbo people, Igbo person, but because it was very powerful, Yoruba people now made him king that he didn't have where you come from. Now, I think we've reached the point where we can listen. I think I'm calm enough to listen to the Obi of Onitsha, because I wasn't ready to listen to him earlier. Now that we're here, I think we can listen to the Obi. Okay? Someone said they still banish people in Southeast in 2026. Do me a favor, just say they banish people in Igbo land. It's easier that way. because stray bullet, no go meet other people that live in Southeast. Now that we have done this preamble, let's now dive deep into Obi of Onitsha's statement, and we will now begin to read books. Someone said they banished us. They banished the boy last month. What's today's date? 24. No, it was this month, early this month or last month. I don't even remember. They banished the boy. Said he killed his mother. There's no police station. There's no court. You can't sue him. You can't arrest him. You banish him. That one will now arrive somewhere in Yoruba land and be asking for rights. We develop Lagos. Come on, banish him on 2026. Those are people that will arrive in Yoruba land and be demanding good governance. We're demanding good governance. It's not different from what happened in the 19th century when people were moved. Some people that were moved because of their caste moved into Yoruba land and then got here and began to do like this. We shall address these things. All right, let's listen to Obi of Onitsha. So I'm not going to listen to everything because it's long. I'll try. Maybe I'll just stop and answer because this thing is long. I'll just stop and then we'll, react. Let's start with the short, the one that has nothing to do with Ife first before we come to Ife. The one that has to do with Onitsha itself. 1 second, please. All right, please take a listen to this. And listen, always look out for the basis, the premise, right? The basis of the argument. It's childish. With all due respect, it's a very childish argument. In other words, you know what? Let him speak. Then I will now tell you what I think. I'm preempting. Take a listen, please.
And of course, the Enugu State. So, that's what I'm trying to say. We are dispersed, all over the place. What are the connections between with all these Onitsha's, with the Chima dynasty? These are questions that should be answered. That is why we need this Center for Igbo Repository. So we can do research, we can do more research, and do more inquiries, go on the spot, look at the artifacts, do excavations, and find out the historical connections, and so on and so forth. We need to know. There's more. In Yoruba land, in Oyo State, and 4 communities that are spelled Onisa, O-N-I-S-A. We know in Yoruba, O-N-I-S-A is called Onitsha. So in Oyo State, there are 4 communities. In Oyo, 4 communities. Obomosho, 3 communities. Ogun State, 1. Osun State, 1. Are there any connections with Onitsha and Kaimau? Or is it a creation of their own, or whatever it is? We need to inquire. We need to find out how those people got to where they were. Because when Ife broke up, people migrated in different directions. Okay? People migrated in different directions, you see. So it could be that these people went on their own way when the main group was going, but we need to find out. We need to know, which is why research is important. So we fast track then to back to Onitsha itself. Okay, I've talked about the arrival of Oreze as the beginning of the foundation of Onitsha town, Onitsha community, Onitsha Donidu, or Onitsha Mili as we know it today.
We're going to go to something more ridiculous, but have you ever, as a Yoruba person, have you ever heard of Onisa in Yoruba land before? Onitsha, O-N-I-S. Have you ever heard of it in Yoruba land? He's saying 4 in Oyo State, 4 in Oyo, 3 in Ogumosho, 1 in Ogun. one in Osun State. Have you ever heard of Onitsha in Yoruba land? The closest thing you will find is Onitsha. It's in Osun State. Onitsha. So if you spell something a certain way here, and you spell it in a similar way there, somehow they are the same. Number one, there's no ONIS in Yoruba land, and it is a king. You know what? And there are two examples I want to quickly share. When you were growing up, you've heard of Addis Ababa. It sounds like a Yoruba word, doesn't it? Addisa Baba. Addisa Baba. I'm coming back to Onitsha. Thank you. It says it's beside the Kirun. That place always look alike to me. Maybe it's because, but thank you. So let me come back to it. Let's start with Ethiopia. You know about Addis Ababa, don't you? Continue to stop in the comment section. Well, I don't have time. All right. So it's called. So if you imagine and I'll say that because there is Addisa in that name in Ethiopia, they are Yoruba people who went to Ethiopia and established that place because Addisa is a Yoruba name. Baba is what we call father. So it's Addis Ababa. That is Ethiopia. Therefore, they're Yoruba people. Or like the example somebody just gave here about in Australia, Adelaide sounds like Adelaide. 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 Tell me they're not Yoruba people. Prove to me that Adelaide people are not Yoruba people. I mean, you don't even have to think of, you don't have to think of, let us find a way to explain it. Just say Adelaide. I mean, it's Adelaide, I know, but just look at the spell and say it's Adelaide. Therefore, Adelaide, it has to be a Yoruba group that went there to go and create Adelaide. Then they also went there to create Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. Or like Prof said, you go to Canada and you see Ottawa. Ottawa. Ottawa, forget Ottawa. Thomas Oyinbo Sonny Yoba, Ottawa. Ottawa ni Canada by you. You see how that thing is lazy thinking. Number one, even if you have similarity, it doesn't prove anything. They want to do research. Research into what? The closest thing to Onitsha or ONISA in the entire Yoruba land that I know of, and any other person to understand the man is Onitsha. And Onitsha is in Osun State. Onitsha is, as someone says, it's close to Kirun. I always look at it close to Ilesha. But it's close to Kirun, and someone actually wrote some of the towns close to it here. And thank you very much for doing that. I'll see if I can find your name quickly. Our own Onyon Onitsha Ikirun. Thank you. Now, how do you now say that because there's no spelling that look alike? It looks like it's number one, there's no spelling that look alike. You're just making things up on the go. Number two, even if they do look alike, how does that matter? So the king. So I always say this, and I even say this about my own king, about our own kings. Kings are not historians. Okay? Kings are not historians. BJ says in between Ikirun and Okuku. That's where Onitsha is, Abi. Thank you. Are you sure they're not from Onitsha? Just giving you wild goose chase. Be looking for waiting no loss. Trying to prove a point that we are not. From today, Ethiopians are from Yoruba land because they have Addis Ababa. Australians are also from Yoruba land because they have Adelaide. Canadians are from Yoruba land because they have Ottawa. How about that? Does that not sound like there's something wrong with what I just said? That's why some people went to Japan and said some names sound like their own, therefore they are from there. It doesn't make sense. It looks like you're grasping at straws, like you're lost in this world. You need something to call your own. It's ridiculous. Mumbo, let's take a short break. Someone says Toronto. Someone says there's Jeju in South Korea, so you just call it Jeju. See, the more you think about this thing, the more you see how childish the argument is. If a name sounds like my own, they are from my place. You take away those people's autonomy, take away the fact that you have never done anything with your assumption, and because you are the king. Big Sam says there's an area called Alibaba here in Florida. Okay, good. So the first argument about spellings, I almost said it made no sense, but okay, so let's forget the person who is saying it. Okay, so this is, I'll be able to talk well, but if you just look away from the person saying it, so doesn't look like disrespect. But there's no Onitsha in Yoruba land. We have a place called Onitsha. It's in Osun State, and interestingly, this man did not even mention it. He said there are 4 communities in Yoruba land named Onitsha. He said there are 3 in Ogbomoso. Sorry, he says there are 4 in Oyo State, 3 in Ogbomoso, Oyo State, 1 each in Ogun State, and 1 in Osun State. There's no Onitsha in any part of Yoruba land. And even if there were, doesn't mean that we are close, related in any way, but there is none. And for that, I want to thank God. Now, the main stuff we want to listen to. Buckle your seatbelts. Take a listen, please.
3000 BC have been excavated at Nsukka in 1970. Earthen pottery. Iron smelting at Nsukka and Afikpo existed, that is, smelted iron had been excavated with carbon testing to be as old as 750 years BC and 2000 years BC. OP 750 and Ledger 2000 BC. And of course, we now know about the Igbo bronze and artifacts which were excavated in our present generation, which dates as far back as to the 9th and 10th century AD. Ife is 12th and 13th century, and Benin is 14th century. So the Igbo artifacts are older than Ife and Benin. So that's why I said earlier on, Nsukka and Afikpo were probably.
I wasn't going to react to that, but I think I should. So going forward, most of my responses will be reading. And if you're Yoruba, this is what makes it good. We'll be studying together. This is from A History of the Yoruba People by Stephen Baji Akintoye. So it says here, and you also find this in Yoruba, the New History by Akinwumi Ogundiran. So I'm trying to see where we start from. So he's talking about the beads, things if I was making, the shegi, iyun, pottery, iron, smelting, and so on and so forth, which is actually older than all the things that this man is. I don't know where he found the dates he's talking about, but specifically to bronze. But before then, he talked about the fact that beside these manufacturers, if it was also an early and major center of of production of cloth, pottery, products. I'll tell you again. Let me just go back a bit. He talked about the bead industry in Ife, talked about agriculture, talked about the construction of homes, the roads, and so on and so forth. Sorry about that. The construction of homes and roads and iron smelting, raw glass. And let me just read some of these things. The two types of beads produced in Ife were the blue dichroic glass beads, known as Segi, and the red tubular type, known as Iyun. Concerning the source of raw materials of Ife bead industry, there has been some debates by scholars, but that they talked about the fact that this iron were actually found in Ife. Details of that you'll find in the book by Akim Ogunjiro. They talked about that besides these manufacturers, Ife was also an early and major center of production of cloth, poultry products, oil palm products, raffia products, certain types of mats, raffia woven baskets, commonly used as containers, and so on and so forth. Then he says, even in these very early times, Ife was already a place of considerable artistic activity. In a recent monumental work on Yoruba art history, written by Henry Joel, John Pemberton, and Roland Abiodun, the following stages and eras in the development of art in Ile-Ife have been proposed. Archaic era is before AD 300. Pre-pavement era is 800 to 1000 or 1000 AD. Early pavement era 1000 to 1200. Late pavement era 1200 to 1400. Post-pavement era 1400 to 1600. Stylized humanism era 1600 to present. I'll jump some paragraphs. It says here, probably by or before the 10th century, some art in bronze. This man said Ife's bronze is 12th, 13th century. I'm reading to you from History of Yoruba by a professor. Probably by or before the 10th century, some art in bronze and brass casting may have begun in the Ife settlement. Many archaeologists and historians believe that bronze or brass casting did not start in Ife until about the early 11th century, but this is probably because much of the bronze or brass art of Ife has not been dated. So the idea basically is that it has not been dated. Some people just say it must have been around the early 11th century, but they are saying that based on whatever archaeological work they've done, it must have existed before then. But the man added 200 years to even the suggestion of 11th century. He added 200 more years to give the effect that Ibos had done it before Yoruba people. Meanwhile, in other words, you are taking the competition today back into the past based on comparison. So your idea of we are civilized, that we've been doing something before these other guys, but there's no evidence that there's anything that we have to wait to 12th, 13th century now to do this thing. But like I said, I don't want to really respond to this, but I just read here. It says at Igbo-Ukwu, east of the Niger, the same forest zone as Ife, clear 9th century dates for bronze brass casting have been obtained. Since it is fairly certain that the copper for bronze brass casting at Ife and Igbo-Ukwu were importations into West Africa, in other words, bronze were not local to this space. They imported those things. So since there were importations into West Africa, it seems very probable that both places obtained the raw materials and practiced bronze brass casting at about the same time. By the 10th century, Ife had, as early pointed out, become a market of considerable importance as a terminus of the trans-Saharan trade, the early source of copper imports into West Africa. At any rate, the very high quality of Ife bronze brass art by the 11th century seems to be positive proof of some earlier beginning than the 11th century. So he's saying here, let me just say it in obiturancy, excuse me, Ife was a major place where they sold, right, in the forest, right? So if people were importing anything from outside, most likely to get to Ife before you go to any other place. That's the first thing. The ones in Ife have not been dated, but the one in Boko have been dated to 9th century. If it goes through Ife to get there, that means that Ife would have gotten it around the same time. They're not even saying that it's earlier, around the same time. But here's the point. By the 11th century, we have particular pieces dated to 11th century. And if the level of sophistication they've already achieved by that 11th century could be seen in those pieces, it means that bronze must have gotten there before 11th century. That's what this writer is saying. Although the king is saying that if I did not get it until 12th, 13th century, just give us another 200 years so we can have Igbo to thank for whatever. Anyway, let's listen to more of the things he has to say. Take a listen, please.
Afikpo were probably at the beginning of the Iron Age. At the beginning of the Iron Age, from the Stone Age to Iron Age, which is why Nnamdi Azikiwe went back to the foundation of iron technology and set up a university there. Another point about Igbo antiquity. This one will cause controversy. After this lecture, I expect there'll be some media reaction. But we've prepared a press release. We should cover what I said as much as possible. Prof, I hope we have the press releases ready now. Okay, thank you very much. In recent times, the Oni of Ife has made statements that Ndi Igbo came from Ile-Ife.
It's not about Indigbo, it's about Igbo. Not Ndigbo, Igbo. Okay? And by the way, before we go deep into this, I don't know the professors that want to release any papers. I don't know the professors that want to write any piece to justify what we're about to listen to. But just to be clear, there are Igbos in Ife. The Igbos are a Yoruba subgroup. The Ibos are not connected to Yoruba people. Now let's listen to this, and I don't know how to justify. How he's going to justify, but take a listen, please.
He's made that statement several times. I know the bofu. Not about but didn't say when Ndibo got to Ile-Ife before they left, when the Yorubas left, arrived in Ile-Ife. But it is well established that Ndibo were in Ile-Ife long before the Yorubas arrived there. Established.
This, regardless of the person saying it, is utterly ridiculous. Indigo were in Ile-Ife before Yoruba people arrived there. Where were they arriving from, and where did you come from? Someone says his prophet, just rubbish. I know, you know the craziest part. It has been established by who? Huh? How do I do this? Let's listen to a few more. I'm tired. Let's listen a bit more so I can say everything together, because we have enough books to read. When people use the word like it has been established, by whom? Who established this falsehood? There is Igbo. There is Igbo. They are not the same. I know I've said it. I'll repeat it a number of times. Please bear with me. But let's bear with him before I respond. So, Okpo, take a listen.
Yorubas arrived there, established, and the authorities that I'm quoting are more Yoruba than anybody else. Ndibo were there and dominated Ile-Ife.
So you see the mindset of the Onitsha man and the other Ibos. The Onitsha is more Igbo than others. It's Igbo. He's saying that these people he's quoting are more Yoruba than others. There's nothing like anybody in Yoruba now. We don't have anybody that's more Yoruba than anybody. That's one. Number two, the names they wrote here. I'm going to read stuff from these people. Though. He wrote about Reverend Samuel Johnson never mentioned the Igbo people. He mentioned that the Obayemi never mentioned the Igbo people. All these words that have become very controversial is what we are going to break down to explain how it all happened. We're going to do that after this. But me, I'm already tired. But if you can bear with him, let's just listen for a few more minutes before we now to Kale.
Okay. Today, there's still a village in Ile-Ife, which is the remnants of the Ibos who didn't migrate away. Because the story was that Igbo were there, dominated Ile-Ife. Okay. the Yorubas came. And then, by cordial relationships and all of that, okay, so on. And Ibos started attacking the Yoruba elements. When they used masquerades to attack them. And Yorubas thought they were spirits. We were afraid until Moremi offered herself as a slave woman to the Igbo group. And they presented her to the king of Igbo. That's how she found the secret. Now more Abro spirit, and get the story back to their people. And they defeated Igbo. Then migration coming back. That is the significance of Moremi in Yoruba history. That's why they call her their heroine, because she saved them and then dominated the whole place. Today, in Ile Odua, which is the palace of the Oni of Ife, the ancient throne of the Igbo king is still there, and it's part of their ceremonies. And they have an annual ceremony which they call the AD ceremony, which marks the defeat of Igbo and their return home. It's an annual ceremony. There's a scholarly article on that. I'm not talking about them. These are all references that I'm quoting. And of course, Reverend Samuel Johnson, The History of Yoruba People, it's a big volume. Eluwa, Onyibo, Aremu, Ijesakin, and Ademiliya are Yorubas. They wrote this scholarly article on the annual festival. Professor Ade Obayemi, who is one of the top Yoruba historians, and of course, Oba himself. In the disputes between Oni of Ife and Olugbo of Ugbo land, Olugbo said she's a traitor, that she was the one who revealed the secret that led them to get away, and that the Ugbo were in Ile-Ife before the Yorubas arrived.
What kind of rubbish is this? Olugbo said that Moremi is a traitor, and Indigbo are the ones that were in Ife. Does that make sense? Is Olugbo speaking for Igbo people in the southeast, or speaking for Ugbo people? So you see, when you see young people just consuming nuisance on social media, this is where it starts. This is where it came from. When your elders are making up stories, disrespecting, this is disrespect, by the way. For instance, you have conversations with these people, they tell you, you guys are always saying respect you, respect you. Do you mean that we should be kneeling down? No, this is what disrespect means. You are changing people's history because you have none. If the elders can do this, can I listen to him? Can I even listen to more of the, because if you notice what he's doing, if you notice what he's doing, Atamo, all the people he mentioned did not write one thing about Igbo people of the Southeast, not one of them. Beginning with Professor Ade Obayemi, not one. Did they write about Igbo? Yes. Did they write about Ugbo? Yes. Did they write about Ibos? No. So, you know, Rumi, I'm going to play you something from the Olugbo, okay? And then we're going to read more books. But you see, the young people that go everywhere changing people's history, South Africa, America, Europe, just lost like vagabonds, is coming from somewhere. If people who will change other people's history to find some form of succor are not people ready to actually live. But remember a few more things before.
Dubo Oni said no. Ndibo, IGPO were there before Yorubas arrived, before Oduduwa arrived. In public, in print, in the newspapers. So what is the difference between Ugbo and Igbo? That's for another discussion, another time. But Ugbo, which is in Okitipupa in Ondo State, are probably part of that Igbo movement that left Ile-Ife. Kana Agazi, Ndi Ihegoro, they stay on their own and so on and so forth. So to summarize on the Igbo history before we go into Onitsha, it's clear that according to Kati Nachalonu, that Ndi Igbo had existed as far back as 11,000 years BC. And that was 7,000 years before the first king, 1,000 years before the first king of Egypt was a black man. So you can figure out where he came from. Secondly, we've talked about Nsukka and Afi.
So let me just say that everything he said is a lie, okay? Let's just start with that. Everything you heard right now, lies. And I'm going to break it down. I was going to play you a video, but I'm going to put it out later, of Olugo confirming what I'm about to say right now, but I'm just going to read. It's not even about what he said. We're going to go into academic works, okay? Thank you so much for the gift, RB71. I really appreciate it. Let's read. Because if I talk, how an adult, a king, a leader of his own people, will wake up one day, twist history, quote Yoruba authors to, he will never tell you exactly what they wrote to, just mention the names so that you should go and verify. In academic circles, right, what you do is that you quote the statement of the person. You will not just say, somebody said something. What's the person's name? Is Kunle, go and verify. And if you notice, like I said earlier, everybody says that same thing. That same thing or another version of it, go and verify. Ask anybody. Go and commission your own research. Go and research. Before I go on, let me quickly say something. If you make a claim, the burden of proof is on you to substantiate what you're saying, not on the person who is listening. That's one. So in other words, I'm not doing this to prove anything to whoever made any funny claims. Everything he said is a lie. I'm doing this for Yoruba people. In order to understand this thing very well, we have to go back just a bit. So let's start with the name Igbo. You see, why do we call a particular group Igbo in Yoruba land? It's because of phonology and the introduction of orthography in Yoruba language. So when the missionaries got to Yoruba land, they had to, we have several dialects of Yoruba language. We have one language, but several dialects. They have to agree to work with some dialects, right? They entered through Badagry, but the base was Abeokuta. Abeokuta had a convergence of different groups of people, mostly folks in the northern part of Yoruba land. You have the Owu, you have the Egba, okay? You have other groups as well. Then, of course, you have the Awori in Lagos and so on and so forth. So the work of standardizing Yoruba language for writing was done in that area. So the pronunciation of certain words, and I'm trying to break it down, I don't want to go into too many academic terms. The standard, in other words, it's not like they're introducing Yoruba language. Yoruba language still dialect still poor. But they're not teaching us how to speak. They're trying to take the one that will help. They're trying to find like an aggregate, so to speak, for what to be reduced to writing. Okay. So on fi si àwọn àdúgbò tán dé sí. And there are certain words, and today we're just going to stay with two. In Eastern and even Central Yoruba land, Central is Ife, Ijesha, Eastern is Ekiti, that side. There are certain words that we use U for, especially in the beginning, like U will be the first letter in a particular, of that word, okay? So words like Ushu, ule. If you go to the northern part of Yoruba, the ushu becomes ishu. The ule becomes ile. If you go to, and this is where this is where you understand that it's actually about writing. If you go to Ilesha today, Olumi, are you joking? Please just let me know. If you go to Ilesha today, ask the people who they are. They'll tell you that they are Ujesha people. They are living in Ulesha. Tell them to write it down. They write it as Ilesha. Tomba Kosile, it will be Ilesha. Tomba Pejade, it will be Ulesha. But Tori Patin Ko Atin Be Amaka Ilesha, Ilesha, Ife, Ufe, no Petele. As a matter of fact, the Beninese, if you read a short history of Benin by Jacob Egareva, he wrote there about Uhe, that Yoruba people called Ile Ife. Back in the day, it was Ule Ufe or Ufe. They don't have in their own lexicon of orthography. No, not orthography. Is it lexicon of phonology? Or in is Aquamilori. But can pay fee in the one. We don't have fee, one for each rockway. One way Ufe ni Uhe. Ufe. No, we originally. But let's pay and costly. I pay Tabalosi Adbo me or Tony Mark because of their own. It's basically dialectal differences. So if you go home in Ulesha, you have gone to Ulesha. If you're talking to me about your hometown, you tell me that you have gone to Ilesha. It's the same thing. The difference is the dialect. Okay? In Koto differ from Ulesha at Ilesha, Ule at Ile, Ufe at Ife, or not differ from Ugbo at Igbo. Some of the books I'm going to read, you're going to hear Ugbo, you're going to hear Igbo. It's talking about the same group of people. It's a Yoruba subgroup. It's not Igbo, which is why I always spell Igbos from Southeast as IBO. If you like, Lerimo Gunner, or Transformer, I don't care. If you were, in fact, just in case you are just coming in, I'm going to read something to you from a publication, you know, when all this Igbo thing started. So you understand the fact that somehow, I think it's actually Ogbalumokoroyini, and I'm trying not to, if I don't say it in English, please just pardon me, I'll explain later. This article I read earlier, Igbo and Igbo. Sir, this was written by D.A.N. Jones. Reading the articles on African writing October 17, I noticed that Margaret Peel and I both refer to the Igbo tribe, IBO, while Nadine Godima and Molly M. Mahood refer to the Igbo tribe, IGBO, a spelling new to me. Is it current in academic circles? A press officer at Nigeria House tells me that Igbo, IBO, is the more standard spelling. That's why I use it. I use it because it's the more standard spelling. Even some of the books that were written in the 1980s, or books about the war Nigerian history in the 1980s, IBO, Luambe. A press officer at Nigeria House tells me that Igbo, IBO, is the more standard spelling, and that he thinks of IGBO as referring to the language rather than the people. A representative of the BBC Hausa service tells me that the words are interchangeable, but that the BBC uses IBO, Igbo. I would be glad to know if there's any reason for changing the usual spelling. The new one might cause confusion. I myself once lived in a Yoruba town called Ijebu-Igbo. There's something, I hope I find it quickly. I want you to listen to it just so that you understand how widespread this madness is. Because then sorrow, and sorrow, I say good people, great nation. We need to begin to talk. Listen to this one. It's a bit, listen to this one. I hope this one works. Let me wrap up what I've said so far. We're going to see much later that the U and E is changing because of dialectal differences, but they're talking about the exact same thing or place or people. So Ile, Ule, Ushu, Ishu. If you go to Ekiti, Ushu Nonje, Ushu, Ishu, Ule, Ile, Ulesha, Ilesha, Ufe, Ife, Ugbo, Igbo is the same group. Okay? But take a listen to something weird. I hope it's this one. Take a listen, please.
You have otas, my brother. Don't we have otas in the market?
Yes. We even have water in Agbo.
We still have water in Agbo. We have water close to Shagamu. We have E4. E4 is not Yoruba name. It is our language. E4 is not Yoruba language. It is not Yoruba language. It's our language. The place they call E4, with the name E4, is telling you that the people who own this land are not Yoruba. You have Igbora. Igbora, what is Igbo mean there? We have Eruwa. Eruwa, it's not Yoruba name. It's our language.
In Agbo, we call it Irua. It is not Irua in Agbo. Yeah.
Eruwa làwọn dọ̀dọ̀ yìí ń bá sọ̀rọ̀. Eruwa náà pè ní Iruwa, àwọn òpònú. Eruwa. Ó ní Igbora ní Igbo nù. Ìgbà náà bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pé Igbo pé Igbo. Ẹ máa gbọ́ yòókù lọ, wọ́n bọ̀.
It's our language. You have a place they call Iwo. We call it Iwo. It's okay, they call it Iwo. It's not Yoruba land, it's our language. You go again, you have Ejibo. Ejibo is not Yoruba word, it's our language. You have a place they call Ede. Umne, the people are children of Ede. That's why they call them Umne. That's why they call them Umne. They are not Umne. Their real name is not Umne. Their name is Umwede.
Ede children.
Umwede. That's their real name. It was British that changed it to Umwede because they couldn't spell it just the way they changed Agbo to Agbo because they couldn't write it. That's why you're hearing Agbo today, Agbo. It's not Agbo. The name is Agbo. If we begin to analyze this, their map, we will understand why we are very angry, why we are doing what we are doing. You will understand why we are very angry. And they tell you that Eko is a Yoruba land. How is Eko a Yoruba land? And you are in your blue eyes, you are saying Ibeti. What is Ibeti? Ibeti. Ibeti. Now that we are analyzing, you have
Igbetiti. I myself once lived in a Yoruba town called Ijebu Igbo. Anything that has Igbo now is not Yoruba. Ijebu Igbo, Igbora, Igbo, Ejigbo, Oyigbo, Igbo. Anything that has Igbo now is Igbo. Is mental illness. And it's important for the federal government to please execute that project that General Muhammadu Buhari initiated, which was a plan to build. And this is not a jab. There's a major problem in people's minds. It's warped. So now spelling would they take know where we come from now. The man said it like a prophet. It as though he was prophesying. He says, the new one, this new spelling might cause confusion. The reason I use IBO is because I don't want to cause confusion. When I write IGBO, I'm talking about Ugbo people, not about these ones. Having said all of these things, let's read books. All right, I'm going to read some books here. The video that has all those books is the live session, and it's a bit long. I'm just going to read all those books. But before I do that, I saw some interesting things in the comment section. Someone says even like Kalamagbo is also Igbo. I think it's just crazy. But I think it's also important for us to use this opportunity as an avenue to learn our own history. So one of the things we talked about in the other video is what Ugbo really means and what Igbo means. So if you go back to some of the things we talked about, the Ugbo are also the Igbo. And so when you hear Kabisi say that there is Ile Igbo in Ife, it is true. The Igbo is referring to indigenous people, they are Yoruba people. They are not Igbo people that were chased out of Ife. We didn't have that kind of interface in Ile Ife with folks from the southeast. The reason you have Ugbo and Igbo, and by the way, when I was growing up, my aunt used to use the word Igbo a lot. I used to wonder if I was talking about Igbo people, but apparently she wasn't talking about them. She was talking about a Yoruba subgroup. Now, my aunt, she has passed now for many years, and she was very old before she died. She was almost about 90. But you see, growing up, she would talk to us about the story of Moremi, which is a story that I think everybody should know now, not beyond the fair. The story of Moremi and how she sacrificed herself and, helped to deliver Ife from the people that were disturbing Ife at the time. We're going to discuss that very quickly today. That story has nothing, contrary to what the Obi of Onitsha said, that story has nothing to do with Igbo people. And one of the clowns who just came up and said we are superior, it shows that you are a retard, because if your king is also talking about the fact that some people are better Yoruba, you guys need to grow up and evolve. This is your stupidity on display. I think I've already muted that clown. So back to what I was saying. The Obi of Onitsha doesn't know what he's talking about. The books he was quoting, if you notice, he would never tell you what the author said. He would just say, if you read this book, it's how they send you on a fool's errand. They would never read to you what's in the book. There's not one of those books that mention Igbo people of the Southeast. I'm saying that, from the very book that was published in 1921, The History of the Yoruba by Samuel Johnson, it has no mention of Igbo people of the Southeast. It's just the people who have no history, or they have a history, but they are not comfortable with the truth of their past, and it's a shame. There are things in everybody's history that you probably wish you didn't have, right? Even when I talk about the story of Ife, there are certain things I wish did not happen, but guess what? It's history. You don't have to go back and change it. You take it, right? You accept the reality of your past, and then you learn not to repeat the mistakes of the past. That's how you grow, not by jettisoning what's yours and then come out on touchlights and be forcing your story on them. So number one, and now I'm repeating this, but it's important. Igbo are indigenous to Yoruba land, indigenous to Ile Ife. They are Yoruba people. They are Igbo who are still in Ife today. That group that is called Igbo is the same group that is called Ugbo. And the difference is not that there are two different groups. It's one group that different Yoruba subgroups call different, pronounce the names differently. And so, like I mentioned, Ife back in the day used to be called Ufe. Ilesha used to be called Ulesha. Issue in the central Yoruba land and eastern Yoruba land until today, you hear Ushu, Ule. It doesn't mean that when you go to say Abeokuta and you hear Ile, that is not talking about the same thing as house. So it's just dialectal differences, okay? But it has nothing to do with people who just adopted the IGBO recently. Having said that, I'll just quickly tell you some things about Ife and how this Ugbo thing came to be. I'll read starting with Yoruba, the new history by Akinwumi Ogundiran. The Ugbo, possible. In fact, if you go back just a bit, it talked about something. I've had a conversation here about the rolling icebergs, the Ife rim. That Ife is like a bowl, and on the rims you have the 13 communities that form the Ife Confederacy. All right, those 13 communities had kings. All right, but then you had the Ugbos who were also in the bowl, right? But they were not part of those 13 communities. I'm just going to read some things very, very quickly. Look at it between. Okay, let's go back just a bit. There's a lot of stuff to cover, but we don't have too much time. Let's read this way. In Ife oral traditions, 13 mega houses are remembered to have existed during this period of political engineering. These are Ido, Ideta, Iloron, Iloromo, Ijugbe, Imojubi, Ìráyè, Ìwìnrìn, Odin, Òkè-àwó, Òkè-ọjà, Ọmọlógun, and Parakin. Each of these mega house politics, what Adeobayemi, that's the person that this man was referring to. I'm about to read what Adeobayemi said. The king was mentioning Yoruba authors without telling us what the Yoruba authors said, because he's not concerned about what the Yoruba authors said. He just needs to use their name to drive an agenda. It's the same thing they do with the book Why We Struck. Talk about the coup. You hear, go and read Why We Struck by the Ademega. He has never read that book in his life, but he's going to quote it because he knows you are Yoruba and the author is a Yoruba. And because the author is a Yoruba and he's invoking that name, surely you don't have to go and verify. But if you even want to go and verify, at least you know that the author is Yoruba. And because of the author being Yoruba and you being Yoruba, you will not even bother to verify anything, because of course the person who's talking to you is a respected person, so you must take his word for it. So when you hear words like go and verify, ask anybody, go and do your research, all that, I mean, those phrases mean absolutely nothing, right? Zilch, because the idea really is not to tell you to go and verify, it's actually telling you to go and verify so that you will not go and verify. It's an interesting psychological tool, right? You tell a person to go and verify so that they will not go and verify. And you do that because you're saying, based on, okay, like the man that was talking about when he said, ask anybody. Where will you start from? Who is the anybody you're going to ask? All right. So they mention these names, not so that you can go and check, but because you'll be like, for this man to mention this Yoruba authors and I'm a Yoruba person, surely I don't need to verify anything. It must be right. No, it's very wrong. So it says here, each of these mega house polities, what Adeobayemi called mini states, was a federation of contiguous houses separated by stretches of woods that ranged in distance from a few hundred meters to about a kilometer. But the recognizable ruler from an alpha house governed each of these mega houses as a corporate unit. The Ijugbe mega house, for example, we're going somewhere, please stay with me. The Ijugbe mega house, for example, comprised Ijugbe, the alpha house, and 4 minor houses, Eronyiba, Igbogbe, Ipa, and Itashi, each with its own leader, and who was also its chief priest. What he's saying basically is this. Let me just quickly explain. In Ife, back in the day, there were 13 communities. I mentioned them earlier. That's Ido, Ideta, Iloran, Iloromu, Ijugbe, Imojubi, Ìráyè, Ìwìnrìn, Odin, Òkè-àwó, Òkè-ọjà, Ọmọlógun, and Parakin. Those 13 communities. Now, each of those mega houses, right, now has subgroups under them. Okay, that's how complex politics has been in Yoruba land. And this was before Christ. This was a long time ago. This was before the Confederacy, okay? So they have this thing where within a mega house, you now have smaller houses, and each of those houses has its own leader, and the leader is a king, but that king is also the priest of those smaller houses, but they come together in the mega house. You now have 13 mega houses like that on the rim of Ife, and they began to put themselves, they began to arrange themselves or organize themselves that way in order to take advantage of, you know, the land and other things. We're going to get to some of those things later. Just stay with me, please. So he says here, you had that for Ijugbe. By the way, the king of Ijugbe was called Obale Ijugbe, and that's why you hear Oba. Obatala, for instance, is not the name of a person; is a title of and to occupy his stool or by data. So Oba is the Oba of Iwini. Obatala is the Oba of Ideta. But we'll get into some of those things later. So he says here that Eronyiba, Igbogbe, Ipa, and Itashi, each with his own leader, who was also its chief high priest. So its chief priest. All the leaders of the 4 corporate houses reported to the Obale Ijugbe, the lord or leader of Ijugbe. Similarly, the Ideta mega house was made up of Ideta, the alpha house, and 3 other houses, Ilale, Ilesun, and Ilia, headed by Obalale, Obalesun, and Obalia, respectively. These heads of the minor houses were in turn under the political leadership of Obatala, the paramount ruler of Ideta. Now, what's telling you here is that these Atkins, by the way, the Igbo at this point didn't even have kings. Someone sent me a message the other day and said a king said that the Igbo were the original kings of Ife. That's not true. I think I should even mention it here. There was no king of Ife until Oduduwa. There were kings in Ife. Oduduwa was not the first person to be a king in Ife, but it was the first person to be the king of Ife. In other words, all the 13 communities I mentioned earlier had their own independent king. They were autonomous, right? And they had their own kings. They were not autonomous villages, though. They were proper mega houses with subgroups under them within that mega house. When we say mega house, it doesn't mean we're talking about a house like a building. We're using the word mega house like a state, all right, like a community. Now, each of them had kings. So the idea of kings in Ife was not something that started with Oduduwa, but they were kings inside Ife. What Oduduwa did that was different was to bring everybody together, and he now became the king of that single entity. Before him, nobody did it in Ife. Okay, so all the stories about, oh, my father was king, Oduduwa now came and usurped, that did not happen. Even Obatala was not the king of Ife. He was the leader of the Confederacy. I'll get to that very soon. Just stay with me. Okay, where were we? Located between the steep and rolling Inselbergs above and the swampy valley below, the Ife Rims were the optimum areas conducive to settlement and farming between AD 500 and 900. The administration of this prime land increasingly tested the skills of the area's political leadership throughout the last 2 centuries of the first millennium. Managing the increasing population's access to natural and social resources and the conflicts that ensued from the competing claims to these resources presented opportunities for new organizational structures. As a result, several of the mega houses began to form themselves into confederacy-like associations. Okay, the most prominent of this was the Ife Confederacy. It seems to have been formed as an it seems to have been formed as an alliance against other social groups in the area, especially the Ugbo, an older group that oral traditions refer to as the aborigines of the area. So what are you seeing here? These guys were forming a confederacy, and one of the reasons they were doing it was actually because of the Ugbo. Because resources were scarce, you had to organize yourself to be able to take advantage of what you needed. Okay? The Ugbo is talking about here are still the same Ugbo you have called Igari or Oluyare. They are Yoruba people. They are part of us. We are proud of them, regardless of history is very interesting. You fight to make up and all of those things. But regardless of what happened in the past, they are Yoruba people. They are not Igbo Southeast, which is why everybody, guys, sincerely, I do this because it's like a pushback against this ridiculous nonsense that they're doing from the Southeast. Spell Igbo as IBO. It helps a lot. It solves a lot of problems. Just spell it as IBO. You're not fighting. You're not fighting. Because like I said in the video, even the Igbo, I studied Igbo in school, right, in secondary school. My teacher never used B. She never said Igbo. School. I just, by the way, I like the language because I was able to count 1 to 1. It's very easy when you want to count your numbers. Igbo is quite beautiful. Bo, like BW. So the pronunciation, so the pronunciation is not even the same. They are not Igbo because they don't even call them. They cannot. If they are pronouncing B today, it's perhaps because they have now been exposed to other cultures, but they don't have an aggressive GB like we do. Ours is aggressive. This is aggressive. In order to make everybody just be fine and let's all live together happily, I spell them as IBO because I don't want to confuse them with people that are different. all we are doing is to say, oh, let's have unity and say you are all for Ife because everybody was created in Ife. In fact, you are from Ife. The next thing you are hearing is that no, we don't your place. You don't offer such people anything in your space. And as it was, your ancestors could not have found their way to Ife, let alone dominate any part of it. But yeah, people can be happy with the nonsense. And let's read a few more things here. So he's saying here that if a confederacy came together in order to, for instance, create new organizational structures, there was, the population was increasing and they needed to have access to natural and social resources. There were conflicts, as there will be in any space. There were conflicts, and so the confederacy organized itself so that they are able to do something. By the way, let me read something to you. I'll come back to this book. So they will be able to access the resources I mentioned earlier. I'm going to read something to you from The Cradle of a Race from the Beginning to 1980. This is actually a fantastic book. The Cradle of a Race, Ife from the Beginning to 1980. It's by King Jogbe. Listen to that. I have a lot of things to read. I'll read some to you here. It says, while the element of cooperation was the basis for forming a confederacy, the political integration of the communities only went halfway. The confederacy was not looked upon as a single indivisible unit. Each of the component parts continued to retain its political autonomy. The alliance was thus a very loose one. There was no central chieftaincy system. Though leadership was vested in an individual, it was rotated among leaders of the component settlements as each settlement retained its political autonomy. What is it saying here? When they created the confederacy, it was not the king of Ife. The king of Ijugbe was the king of Ijugbe. The king of Ideta was the king of Ideta, of Batala. The one of Ilorum was the king of Ilorum. All of them they were in their own communities, but they rotated leadership amongst themselves. They still retained their autonomy, right? They were kings in their own right, but they had like a primus inter pares who is like the first among equals when it came to the kings, not the people. It wasn't ruling the entire peoples, but it was the one that everybody looked up to as far as the kings were concerned. Okay, so he's saying here that the confederacy was loose. I'm going somewhere. We're going to see how this thing comes to Igbo and Ugbo eventually. So they have that. For instance, it would appear that the first leader of the confederacy was the head of the Okeora hamlet, Oranfe, Oratonife, the Ora who owns Ile-Ife. His reign is now dated to the time of creation, Nigba Ewashe, and is remembered to have been succeeded by Obatala. Well, the Obatala thing again, so history can be very funny. It's not, the timeline is not as close as they're saying here. There are many years between Oranfe and Obatala. Oranfe was the first chairman of the confederacy. If you read the book by Stephen Maji Akintoye, History of the Yoruba, Oranfe was the first head of the confederacy. Obatala was the last one. It wasn't the second, it was the last. So between them, they had other kings. But so it says here, Obatala, the head of the Ideta community. The confederacy was also elastic enough to accommodate settlements which accepted the idea of mutual cooperation. Membership was, however, voluntary, and it was presumed that any settlement could pull out of the alliance when its leader so wished. Such an alliance did not last long. The inability of the lineage settlements to outgrow the parochial attitude and form a single viable community was a crucial factor that aided the decline and eventual collapse of the confederation. For instance, under Oranfe himself, there appeared to have been cracks in the arrangements. There were challenges to Oranfe's leadership, a conspiracy to wrestle the leadership from him. This occasioned a series of skirmishes, now only faintly remembered in oral traditions. Eventually, a vote of confidence was passed on Oranfe, and a stern warning was given to the rebels. All stranger elements to note, no one is as great as Oranfe. Oralomo nifel, elu gbogbo oralo nife. Oralomo nife. Elu gbogbo oralo nile. Surely Ora owns Ife. All stranger elements Ora owns Ife. Surely Ora owns the land. All stranger elements Ora owns the land. Indeed, for some time, Ora appeared to be the power behind the throne of Ife. The way I was reading, that's Ife dialect. When they say Ora Lomon Ife, it's like Ora Luman Ife. You get Ora Lomon Ife. Emosoni Tora Ife. Kumase Ngoto Tora Ife. Okay. Or Elu. The 13 settlements were referred to as Elu. So you hear 13 Elus in Ife at the time. So Elu Gbogbo or Elu Gbogbo or Alomon Ife. They are telling all the settlements, like, listen, you have a chief now, because it took a while. It was social engineering. They were not used to it. It took them, you know what? So that I can, do I even need to read that? I have the book here. You will probably appreciate it a bit more. Give me a second. By the time we're done with this, I think it will give us a better idea of Uboshe Wole, how the story is, so that when you hear clowns making up rubbish and talking absolute nonsense, you will not be carried away by their shenanigans. All right, I'm going to read something to you from A History of the Yoruba People by Banji Akintoye, Professor Banji Akintoye. It says here, the growth in population in Ife by the 9th century increased the sizes of the settlements, and growing prosperity enhanced the quality of life in many ways. Very importantly also, Ife's prosperity attracted increasing numbers of people into the area. Many of these were traders and others who ended up becoming members of the existing compounds and lineages. But increasing numbers were not getting so absorbed that tended to constitute a sort of floating population. Also, by the way, whatever you are seeing happen in Lagos right now, on Lusha in the 9th century. 9th century means 800 AD. Just saying. That's why when people talk about cosmopolitan nonsense. We open your land because you're cosmopolitan. Like, we've been cosmopolitan for more than 1,000 years. Nobody you go come teach us how to behave in a cosmopolitan place, especially since you don't have any where you're coming from. But I mean, details. Let's go on. Many of these were traders who were coming to Ife, and others who ended up becoming members of the existing compounds and lineages. But increasing numbers were not getting so absorbed, but tended to constitute a sort of floating population. Also, small coherent groups came, seeking to establish settlements and share in the prosperity of the Ife area. In the face of all these developments, the traditional political arrangements in the Ife Bowl could not possibly survive for much longer. From their various beginnings, each of these settlements had managed its own affairs as an autonomous kingdom religiously, so respected by and respectful of its neighbors. The traditional political landscape, the traditional political leaderships clung tenaciously to this old order of things, but clearly the old order was due for radical change. At first, and for some time, a sort of alliance or confederacy, according to Abiodun Adediran, over which of them presided as a sort of chairman. The details of this arrangement are not very clear, but according to Adediran, the alliance was a very loose one. That's one where we read earlier. So the person is referring to is what we just read, okay, in the book by Akinjogmi. So the article I was reading earlier was actually by Abiodun Adediran. Apparently, they developed some increased collaboration in ritual matters, but it says here that the details of this arrangement are not very clear. But according to Adediran, the alliance was a very loose one. Membership was voluntary, and it was presumed that any of the kings could pull out at will. No central chieftaincy institution was ever considered. Again, there was no king of Ife, there was nothing central at the time. Every settlement of the 13 Elu, each Elu had its own king. And in some of those Elu, you also now have a collection of Agbole Tutun Loba, all right? under the Elu. So Elu ni mega house. See, Akinwumi Ogundiran referred to earlier in Yoruba land. In fact, there's a song by Duro Jayaremo. You talk about if Mefa Elu Meje. Elu Meje also is a play on words or just basically poetic license. When you hear Ife Mefa Elu Meje, it's just saying that there were 13, and those 13 could be Ife. You could call them Ife. You could also call them Elu. All right. So he's saying here that this time there was no central chieftaincy institution. I was supposed to have this on Friday. I think I've already gotten. I'm almost done with what I want to teach later this week. But don't worry, let's continue. So the details of this arrangement were not very. I read that already. No central chieftaincy institution was ever considered, and every kingdom kept its autonomy and separate existence. Apparently, they developed some increased collaboration in ritual matters, allowing the chairman to call for and preside over joint sacrifices to the gods for the common welfare of all the settlements. But the chairmanship was not permanent, but rotational, so that when the chairman died, the position passed to the king of another settlement. The oldest one among the kings, according to some traditions, was elevated to the vacant position. So it's a sort of gerontocracy. All right. An arrangement which had to make the chairmanship change hands frequently, thus guaranteeing that no chairman would develop undue ambitions. So far were the kings ready to go and no further. That's why I said earlier that Obatala was not the succeeding king. It wasn't like after Oramfe, Obatala, and it was the end. No, there was Oramfe. There were others, before him. Because it was based on gerontocracy. The oldest becomes, the chairman of the Confederacy until he dies, and then the next person, and so on and so forth. As it turned out, this arrangement proved very unstable. Even soon after its inception, conflicts surfaced. The first chairman of the alliance, according to most versions of the traditions, was Oramfe, ruler of the Ora settlement. He soon confronted some major challenge to his leadership. The nature of the challenge is not clear. Probably he found that some of the kings in the settlements would not accept his leadership in certain matters, or even that some of them conspired to replace him or abolish the alliance. According to traditions, he survived the challenge and secured the support of the majority of the kings and settlements. A minor conflict seemed to have occurred since the traditions describe Oramfe's supporters as running through all the settlements proclaiming, "Gbogbo Elu, hear all people in this Elu. Oramfe has no rival. Oralomo Nifel, Oramfe is undisputed leader in all of Ife. Elu Gbogbo, Oralo Nife, let all in the Elu hear that." Most of the kings who occupied the position of chairman after Oramfe do not appear to have fared well at all. The last of them was Obatala. All right, now I'm going to move away from this book and go to another book. But I just want to establish the thing that we know the first was Oramfe and the last was Obatala. I hope you're having a great time. But what does this have to do with with Ugbo and Igbo? Just stay with me. I think one of the problems that we have is, Amanche surface level, so going deep, and therefore it's easy for somebody to just come and just say nonsense, because we too were not sure, because go Leto, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that today. All right, so they formed the alliance. So back to Akinwumi Ogundiran's book. So they formed the alliance, and one of the reasons for forming the alliance was also because, primarily because of, need to access natural resources, social resources, and things like that. And also because of another group that was not so much happy with them, just like groups do. We had Kirijiwo. It shows that, as you grow and expand, you have issues amongst yourselves. It's just normal. Anyway, so it says here, the most prominent of this was the Ife Confederacy, and it seems to have been formed as an alliance against other social groups in the area, especially the Ugbo, an older group that oral traditions refer to as the aborigines of the area. The Ugbo possibly constituted a cultural and language group, one of the descendants of the later Stone Age communities that lived in what is now Ife Ijesha, Ijebondo, and southern riverine Yoruba regions during the first millennium BC. I'm going to jump to this other part. The Ugbo group in Ile-Ife, also known as Oluyare or Igare, may have consisted of several clans or subgroups. The antiquity in the area preceded the late formative period, and the swampy Ife Bowl seems to be the preferred settlement site where they subsisted on fishing, hunting, and foraging, but with very limited farming, if at all. So they were seen as hunter-gatherers and fishermen. Okay, they also did not create any form of kingship at that like high political structure at the time. Not like of course eventually they created it, but at the time they didn't even really do so much farming, right? They were in the bowl. And when we say bowl, just to be clear, so that it doesn't get lost on us, it's just to describe the topography of the area. Like if you go up, like say you have this bird's eye view in a helicopter, a chopper, whatever, and you look down, might that be bowl? So you have a depression where you have a swamp at the bottom of everything, right? And then it goes hilly until you come to the edge. That edge is like the rim, okay? Then you have an expanse of land, and then after that you have the hills and the mountains. And if they had 7 of such mountains around it, all right, 7 of those mountains, 13 of communities on the rim, and then you had the Ugbo in the bowl. Okay, so that's what. So when you're hearing the word bowl, it's just to describe what the topography looked like. Okay, all right. So going forward, so it says here that they were in the swampy Ife Bowl, and they preferred, and that was a settlement, and they subsisted on fishing, hunting, and foraging, but with very limited farming, if at all. The ecological mosaic of the area would have encouraged interdependency and exchanges of farm and riverine products between the Ife of the rim and the Ugbo of the bowl. However, as the Ife multiplied in number and sought a replacement for the exhausted farmland, conflicts with the Ugbo would have been inevitable. At this point, I think I'm just going to tell you some stories instead of reading everything. But if I have to go back to books, I will. So here goes. At this point, people were exhausting the farm space, the land that they could use for farmland in the bowl, on the rim, and they were trying to get in the bowl because that was the more fertile area. And of course, there had been time of drought, there had been time of challenges that they've had, and so it made sense for them to expand because the people were getting more. Some people were even moving into the place, okay, from outside. The people in the land too were multiplying, so they needed more land. And then they had conflict. In the ensuing conflict, one thing that was important was a new social order. And without going into the details, because maybe we're going to have a special session on this, without going into the details, the new social order was what Oduduwa represented. He was not a stranger in that place. He's from Okiora as well. And Okiora is on the way to Elisha. Is the eastern part of Ife. It's just that what they did was, listen, we're going to have to take advantage of the ecological blessings we have, so to speak, the land and so on and so forth. But in order to do that, we have to change the political structure. You can't do this thing where you have to talk to somebody, they to take forever before we decide. Before you know what's happening, the people need to have a land to farm. They have to have the land to farm, and you have all this, red tapeism and bureaucracy. And so he came up with a different idea of how to do stuff. That eventually led to what's it called now? Like a break, so to speak, with the old order. The old order represented by Obatala, and then the new order represented by Oduduwa. Please, if you're on TikTok, please power tap. Thank you very much for what you've done so far, but this thing is showing some stuff. Normally we should have ended, but for some reason I thought I should read today, and now I'm making it a full session on its own. But I'll do what we can, and then we'll have another session to go deep into this, okay? All right, so they began to have that issue, and one of the things that the Oduduwa people did was to create a wall, okay, in order to be able to claim more lands. This is we're talking 10th century AD. This is not 2026. Back in the day, you needed something, you had the conversation about it, you fought for it. While they were doing that, they built, let me read some to you from this book now. By the way, at this point, we had what Akinwumi Ogundiran, by the way, who is an archaeologist, what he described as oscillation between unpredictable annual droughts and a rainfall pattern that was similar to that of today. So imagine you're in that place, you have more people, but you're not able to actually harvest like you should, so you need more land. Out of this contestation, sorry, let me go back just a little bit. The reduced annual rainfall started the drying up process in the swampy Ife Bowl. This ecological change helped to open up the area for increased settlement and farming activities. So where you used to have a swamp, now you're having land emerge because it's getting dry. But what that means basically is that what you can use that place for right now is farming. You can't really be fishing there because now it's getting dry. Okay, whatever is affecting people on the rims is also affecting people in the bowl. It's just that now the bowl gives you the kind of soil that you require in order to have like bountiful harvest. This ecological change helped to open up the area for increased settlement and farming activities. The ensuing massive clearance of vegetation for agriculture and settlement accelerated the rate of evaporation, water runoff, and draining of the heavy clay that had characterized the swamp. Those moving in were not only from the old communities as the nearby rim, many were also migrants beyond the ring of Ife Hills. As a result of this population increase, conflicts and the quest to define territorial boundaries accelerated. Out of this contestation emerged a group of people who succeeded in building a large perimeter wall, now known to archaeologists as the inner wall. Right? So there was an inner wall in this prime ecological area during the 10th or 11th century, measuring about 7 kilometers in circumference with a diameter of about 2.3 kilometers. Think about how large these people built, man. More than 1,000 years ago. Measuring about 7 kilometers in circumference with a diameter of about 2.3 kilometers, the wall was an embankment built of packed earth that enclosed what would soon become the core urban center of Ile-Ife. The builders used this embankment to stake their territorial claim in the bowl. Now, while this was going on, people were having issues. Some of the people that belonged to the old order wanted to work with these other ones. Some of them were against it. The chief of Batala was against it. And as the Wala was going on, something quite interesting happened. The influx of new settlers into the bowl, especially the group responsible for building the perimeter wall, would have affected the Ugbo communities. After all, they were the ones who had lived in this area for centuries. They were therefore at the center of the conflict over the control of the bowl. The initial nemesis were the farmers moving down from the Ife Rim, but the displacement of these Ugbo settlements caused by the construction of the inner wall seems to have galvanized them. This is a very important part of Ife history, by the way, if you're interested. Please pay attention. Whatever was happening at that time, the construction that was going on seems to have galvanized them to join the Obatala group against the builders of the wall. Doing so meant that they recognized the leadership of Obatala. Hence, one of the sobriquet of Obatala is Oba Ugbo. I want to pause to say something. I've heard some Yoruba people with wonderful history. Again, see, we're all learning, but it's important to actually learn before we speak on some of these things. They say things like, oh, Obatala was an Ugbo man, and it was one that was Oba Ugbo. Obatala was from Ideta. He was the king of Ideta. He was the chairman of the Confederacy of Ife people, of the Elu, and the Elu, they were different from the Ugbo, but they were all Yoruba people, okay? The Ugbo people had they were doing their own thing. But when this Wahala started, they then joined the side that Obatala was heading at the time, okay? And then they started calling him Obatala Oba Ugbo, because he's now the leader of the Ugbo people as well, even though originally was Silara Confederacy. Confederacy got Meji, people that wanted to move into the new space and thrive. The other one that wants to just stay with the old order because, of course, maybe the old was safer. All right. So this happened. I now have Obatala on one hand and Oduduwa on the other hand. Okay. Now here's the issue. By the way, this story is something that we reenact in Ife every year. Like, we tell that story during the Takba, where you have mock fights to remind us what happened back in the day. That's why retards cannot be changing Yoruba history today. We've held on to that for more than 1,000 years. It's not people like it makes absolutely no sense. The annual festivals and rituals celebrating the origins of several towns, dynasties, and kingships in the central Yoruba region often reenact this event. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So there was actually like a proper war. They really fought. There was a man who was on Oduduwa side. His name is Obameri. He it was who sacked Ideta. Ideta was the Elu of Obatala. In other words, the chairman of the Confederacy is also the king of a particular Elu. Ideta was Elu. So he sacked him and forced everybody out. They moved to a place called Ideta-Oko. The same way you have Ideta-Ile, you have Ideta-Oko, like the countryside. So they moved there, himself, all his supporters, including the Ugbo people. I'm going to have to rush now because of time. They all moved there. After a while, there was a man called Ojumo. Ojumo was a prince. He comes along and then tries to mediate between Oduduwa and Obatala faction. And one of the things that happened before them, by the way, was an outbreak of smallpox. And that's why, if you've ever observed that festival in Ile-Ife, you will notice that the Obatala priests always have like this white spots all over their bodies. They will make it all over their bodies. They're actually trying to show the lesions that were on the people's bodies when the outbreak happened back then. So it's an elaborate way of reenacting everything that happened in that period. And I really praise our fathers, and I respect them for life. Okay, they were not ashamed of the history. They told the story, but they also re-engineered things. So when Ojumo came, there was Mombo. I'm trying to say a lot of things, but I also want to make sure, if I can, I'll read some things to you. So let me read from another book called Ife, Cradle of the Yoruba, a handbook on the history of the origin of the Yoruba. This is by Adima Kinwa. He says that before that time, the dwelling place of Obatala was Ideta-Ile at Igotapa, at a place between Ilode and Okerewe, quarters of Ife. Ilode and Okerewe quarters are still in Ife today. The then dwelling place of Obameri was the exact place where the present St. Paul Church, Ayegbaju, of the CMS is today, at a place between Ijio and Ilode. Though Obameri's townhouse is today used as a church and school premises, yet Obatala's town and country houses are still today used and called Ideta-Ile and Ideta-Oko respectively. When Obameri heard that Obatala drove Oduduwa out of his palace, he promptly rose up in arms against Obatala. The latter was so completely conquered that he was eventually driven out of town. Consequently, Obatala went to a place now called Ideta-Oko, named after his townhouse, to make his temporary abode. In order to aggravate the feeling of Obatala all the more, Obameri also moved out of town to a place about 1.5 miles to where Obatala built his house, to build his own on the same road. But his was much nearer to the town than that of Obatala, mainly to prevent the latter from molesting Oduduwa's peace in the town. On account of this, Obatala's people had to obtain Obameri's permission before they could come to buy their most needed things in the town. The site of the houses which those two important personalities built then are still today at places little beyond the Seminary Stream, on the way to Mokoro Stream, from where the water drunk at Ile-Ife today is drawn. Obameri was a very, very loyal lieutenant to Oduduwa, and he did all of those things. Anyway, eventually I want to find a place to I like reading sometimes because I think it also helps because it doesn't look like one is making things up. I think it's just a very good way of not doing go and verify, if you get what I mean. Go and verify. Ask anybody. If I'm also in case there by let me read something to you from the other book now, The Cradle of a Race, from the beginning to 1980 by King Jogbin. This particular article was written by Abiodun Adesanya. It says here that one factor that eventually aided the collapse of the Obatala group appears to have been the outbreak of smallpox in their camp. The speculative appearances of the Obatala priests during the Itapa festival suggested that they were smallpox victims. Furthermore, on the 7th day of the Itapa festival, elaborate rituals are held for prevention against smallpox epidemic. Also on the 11th day, the major players commemorate both the settlement and re-entry of Obatala into Ile-Ife and the rituals against the smallpox epidemic in the town. It is on this same night that the Ooni visits the shrine to renew his case. By the way, this happened last year. It will happen again this year. It happens every year till today. They've been doing that ritual for about 1,000 years. By the way, the word ritual here is not something, because sometimes we just hear say, oh, it's demonic. It's observances, right, that keeps going on from time to time. The point is, even till today, the king. So one of the beautiful things about our elders, by the way, I should say this, is that our fathers never believed in winner takes all, right? No matter what happened, they found a way to make sure that even the person who lost, quote unquote, got something. I was having a conversation with a professor a couple of days ago, and we're talking about I was trying to make a case for one of the major problems with Nigeria, that the declaration of no victor, no vanquished was one of the most disruptive, not just disruptive, destructive actions ever taken in Nigerian history. It was a very simple thing. The people who did it were very, I'm sure they were very honest. They're trying to find closure, but you can't do that with a culture that has not evolved to the point of understanding what you're trying to do. You treat cultures based on their reality, not based on your assumptions. Okay? When you say no victor, no vanquished, you have created a vacuum. I've said this a number of times. When you say no victor, no vanquished, you have a vacuum. The vacuum has to be filled by something. This person who was conquered, he cannot claim to be the victor. Clearly, he was conquered. Now he cannot claim to be the victim. The vanquished. So he can't claim to be the victor because he was conquered. Clearly, he can't claim to be the vanquished because he has pride, which is natural. Now he doesn't want to be the villain. So he has only two options: be the victor or be the vanquished. Now you are saying no victor, no vanquished. There's a vacuum, has to be filled. What does he fill it with? Victimhood. He now says he's a victim and you, the supposed victor, you are now the villain. What our fathers did in Ife was to make it very clear who won and who lost. And after doing that, to now intentionally engineer society in such a way that even the person who lost doesn't feel any sting of loss. He is welcomed back into the fold. He's given opportunities. He's deified. He's actually given spaces. The king does not have all the powers. He's able to share even with the other person. But everybody doesn't know exactly what happened. And the one who won doesn't begin to throw his weight around and say, I'm the guy of everybody. He can still, if his descendants still have to go to the shrine of Obatala to go and pay obeisance. It helps you organize society. Now, compare that, and by the way, what I'm saying right now is actually a major thesis. I'm just saying it's in passing right now, but it's an academic work. Compare that with what happened in Nigeria, where you say no victor, no vanquished. Even though you gave the Ibos vice presidency 9 years after the war, they still see that you are the villain and they are the victims. And if you look at Biafra being the eastern region, right, before 1967, the Senate President Nigba in 1979 under Shagari was from what you called Biafra. In the House of Reps, from what you called Biafra. As a matter of fact, the presidential campaign of 1978-1979, the three major political parties had an Igbo either as a presidential candidate or the vice presidential candidate, right? Because they were trying to rebuild the country. NPP, with the presidential candidate being Azikiwe, you had UPN, presidential candidate. By the way, the deputy to Azikiwe was also a Christian from the north at the time. It was a Christian ticket. But his vice presidential candidate was also an Igbo person. So, and that was Alex Ekweme. So they had Igbo as vice presidential candidate, UPN had Igbo as vice presidential candidate, NPP has Igbo as presidential candidate 9 years after the war. But because you never really addressed the fact that they lost, you are trying to do as if we are all one people. You have lost the opportunity to actually make it very clear that, listen, what you are getting is a way of bringing you back in. It's not like you have a right to anything. In other words, we're not doing this based on we have right. If it's about rights, we're not going to live here. We're doing this because we want to create a sense of belonging for all of us, including you, so that you not feel like you lost out. In Ife, during Takwa Festival, we see they do it's like a play. And we're having a conversation the other day. It was actually quite interesting. I was like, we reenact the show every year, and it's documentation, by the way, right? It's how we remember the story. So even if you didn't write it down, we have Oriki, we have Oni, we have songs, we have reenactments. We can see the production every year, and we see the story. The point I'm trying to make is that Nigeria has a lot to learn from Ife history. That's what I'm trying to say. Well, anyway, the point is, the Oni visits the shrine of Obatala to renew his case, and he does that every year. So it's not like I won, I'm the king of all of you go to hell. Yoruba cannot do that. Because if you do that, you cannot create a society that works. Right? And it's the same thing for our politicians. You can't say I've won, everybody go to hell. You can't do that. They will frustrate you. You have to also make them feel like part of the whole thing, because after all, you say you have settled the matter. So if you've settled it, they've got to feel like they're part of what you're doing, rather than just being seen as outsiders who lost. So their identity is not losers. Their identity is that they are part of the city builders. Our fathers were wise. I really wish, I had a plan for this session. I'll have another session. I'll repeat some of these things, because this is, I should make a video of this thing. Our fathers were, and our mothers, our elders were very wise. Let's read a few more things before we go. I'm going to connect this thing with Ugbo and Ibos. Some of the things they said about Moremi. That's why I'm doing all of these things. So stay with me, please. So he says that Oni visits the shrine to renew his case the same night. If you go online right now and look for Itakwa Festival, or you look for Batala priests, you see them with those dots on their bodies. They're like a speckled getting all over their body. They're trying to recreate the fact that they had lesions of, during the outbreak of smallpox. All right. And so when you see it, it's not juju. It's actually is a way to remind you of the history of what happened. Also on this same night, while the trip from Idetale to Idetauko in commemoration of the expulsion of Obatala's forces by those of Oduduwa is being held, there is such weeping and lamentation for the loss of the Ari. Ari, by the way, is the crown that Kabisi wears once a year during Olojo. Okay? People will cry. It's like a drama that everybody is participating in, and you know your role, right? You will weep just to wait. You feel the pains of your elders, of the ancestors. Like, this is what we went through. Okay? Therefore, the Ojumo peace efforts, that the prince I mentioned earlier, did not appear to have put an end to the struggle for supremacy. Indeed, a faction of the, and this is where we're going to come into Igbo now. Listen to this. So remember that when we read the book by Akim Ogundiran, you kept hearing the word Ugbo, Ugbo, Ugbo. You hear something else now. Please stay with me. It says the Ojumo peace efforts do not appear to have put an end to the struggle for supremacy. Indeed, a faction of the Obatala group, led by Obaweni, argued the Obaweni was the king of Iweni, one of the settlements in Ife. Obawere argued strongly, that was before, that the cause for which they had picked up arms should not be compromised. This faction refused to join Obatala to return to their original settlement at Idetale. Rather, they settled at a place which became known as Igbo Forest. Now, you notice something is calling them Igbo. Igbo. You have other books that will say Igbo or Ugbo. It's talking about the forest where the Igbos now camped, from where they later launched a vendetta on the city. The Igbos that now began to attack Ife began to go, and it wasn't something that happened. What I'm saying right now covers a lot of years, and the Igbo fighting Ife and running back, it didn't just happen after 1, 2, 3, 10 years. It was from time to time. They would just raid and run back. They will raid, take things, take people and run. Okay? I want to read something to you from the book by Makinwa. So when you hear the story of Moremi, the Igbos, Tonsoyen, were the ones who refused. So again, remember what we've discussed so far. You have 13 mega houses on the rims. You have the Ugbo in the bowl. The 13 they created a confederacy against the Ugbo people, by the way, because of access to resources. Much later, there's another force from within that was trying to create a new social order led by Oduduwa. And now the 13 settlements, some of them were with Oduduwa, some of them were still with Obatala. The Ugbo people began to join forces with Obatala and began to call him also Oba Ugbo. All right. They then began to, of course, fight Oduduwa. They didn't want to have this new order that he's trying to do to expand spaces for the people. It didn't bring people from Mecca or from abroad. They were the people of the land who were trying to expand beyond where they were. And then you have this old order who was like, necessary, but you had the need amongst yourselves. So they were not strangers trying to take a place. They were part of the people in that space. All right. Anyway, they broke into, you have the Obatala group, then you have the Dua group. Ugbo people joined the Obatala group. Eventually, they fought. After a while, you had Obameri, one of the Oduduwa's people, who pushed the Obatala people out, and they moved to a place called Ititauko. At Ititauko, they were there for a while, and then there was an outbreak of smallpox. It affected them a lot. A lot of people died. That was a natural issue anyway. But then there was a prince called Ojumo. He brokered peace between Oduduwa and Obatala. They had an agreement in Ife. We call that Isisun. They had an agreement and they moved back into Ife. But some said, no, it's there to finish. We are going to finish this thing. We're not going to go back and settle anything. We will remain out there. Those people who remain out there were the Igbos that stayed back. By the way, there's another Igbo that they are called Oluyari. All right. Or Igari. They're the ones Tonyalobari. Areni, Ade, Oni, Won Yari. Oluyari means that you have run to the area for refuge. All right. But that is something that I think I'm saying a lot of things at the same time. Anyway, the point here is that the folks led by Obawini now began to attack Ife. After necessary settlement had been effected, I'm reading Ife, Cradle of Yoruba, a handbook on the history of the origin of the Yoruba people by Ademakinwa. After necessary settlement had been effected between Obatala and Obameri, Oòduà asked them, by the way, you notice I'm reading a lot of books. The reason is because so far we've read the history of the Yoruba by Banji Akintoye, we've read Yoruba the New History by Akinwumi Ogundiran, we've read Ife, Cradle of Yoruba handbook by Ademakinwa, and we've read the other one by Akinjogbe, Ife, the Cradle of a Race. And there are others we are not opening now. The point I'm trying to make is that it's important for us to see what different scholars have done. And by the way, the reason I read these books is not because the professors are like, oh, they are good. No, it's because they did their research talking to the people of the land. If you go to Ife today, what you're going to hear from them is what I'm reading to you. All right, it's even from somebody just sitting in one corner and be writing rubbish and be saying things that go and verify. So these people actually went there, and you see consistency, right? And then if you still go there today, you hear, so that it doesn't appear like one just taking one and running around with it, which is why I find it funny when someone says, "You want to understand your history of Yoruba, go and read Samuel Johnson." Like, there are some places not to do. Samuel Johnson did not even go to Ife to do any research. That's the funny thing. He did not step in Ife for any research. He just wrote whatever, you know. So I say all of that to say that we'll have this session again, proper session. I'll make a video of it and put it out there. But I'm sure this also helps. So let's go back to this book now. So each year during the Itakpa festival till today, both sides always greet each other with series of songs, abusive songs, as their foreparents did in olden days. They will insult themselves. As soon as the point of contention is passed over, either with the waddling or without either with the wading or without wading through a pool of palm wine. Similarly is the occasion of the fight between Obameri and Obatala, yearly observed during the same period by a number of hunters. So see what's happening. Obameri and Obatala fought, forcing Obatala out of Itetalko. They reenact that one. They settled everything. They reenact that one with the Oni. I'm sure you can get it online. Oni was at the shrine of Obatala. Oni representing Oduduwa, your land. There's a lot to learn from our fathers. Don't think I don't think we are smarter as them, let alone smarter than them. I think it's hubris to assume that we are smarter than them. So they will reenact everything. They'll put palm wine, at the town gate, and it will be flowing, and everybody will be trying to outrun his opponent in order to avoid passing through a pool of palm wine. After necessary settlement had been effected between Obatala and Obameri, Oòduà asked them to evacuate their country houses for their former town houses. In other words, leave Idita Oko and come back home. Okay, come back to town. By the way, at this point, they had recreated the city center. Everything was settled around the Remo. All right, so the place we now call Enowa in Ife today. You have a new downtown. You have a new market. You have, of course, you have your old homes, but now the city is properly, structured based on the new social order, because we've expanded spaces and we can now have opportunities to farm, which is work. Meanwhile, your homes too, you can renovate and stuff. So you guys have been out there, you can now come back. So it says, after necessary settlement had been effected between Obatala and Obameri, Oòduà asked them to evacuate their country houses for their former town houses. This royal order was promptly obeyed. Nevertheless, many of Obatala's wild boys were not willing to let Obameri and his people go unpunished one way or the other. Although they knew that this could not be done without punishing other people too, yet they insisted on carrying out their tendentious purpose, led by, if you read the other book, Obawere. As many of them were hunters who had been used to hard forest life. When they were not allowed to come to town, as soon as they reached home, they left the town in pretense that they went hunting. During that time, they secretly made a circuitous bush path through thick forest until they came to a place known afterwards as, wait for it, Igbo. That is Igbo's forest. He wrote it here as Igbo. So that's why I said when you read a lot of Yoruba books, you will see Ugbo, you will see Igbo. Neither of those two has anything to do with Igbo people of Southeast. They are Yoruba people. What is Igbo, or where is the place, or what's the idea? It's a place very far from the town, and it is almost diametrically opposite to both town and their former country houses. The place where both Obatala and Obamere built their country houses is still this day on the right hand side of the road leading from Ile-Ife to Ilesha, while Igbo is on the left hand side of the road leading from Ile-Ife through Isoya to Ijebu land. By the way, there's a road to Ijebu from Ife, right, where you don't have to go through the express, to Ibadan to they are their own way. People used to travel from Ijebu carrying wares, fish, salt, to sell in Ife way back. And they didn't have to go to the express, where there was no express anyway. So, all right. Finding that place suitable for their tendentious purpose, they came back home to organize a secret society to which they gave the name Igbo. For years together, they continued to carry on their hunting along with the secret society. At that time, it was a common practice for hunters to stay in the forest for 2 or more years together before coming home. Whenever they went to the bush, they used to go to this Igbo to prepare it for the main purpose they had founded it. At first, it was used as the Oro worshippers used the Igboro for the sole worship of Oro, or as the Egungun worshippers used the Igbale, mainly for the worship of Egungun. Little by little, these hunters began to increase in number, and little by little they began to stay in the bushes much longer than ever before. But as the others were not in the know of their revengeful and wicked purpose, no one attached any importance to their absence from home. When every serious memory of the fighting between Obatala and Obamere had almost been entirely lost to a reasonable extent, some of the members of the Igbo secret society moved to stay in their newly carved settlement, quite unknown to the other non-members. There, they began to plan how best they could make their presence effectively but secretly felt in the town in order that they might be able to punish Obamere's followers. Obatala is still this day called Oba Igbo. If you read the other one, it says Oba Ogbo, because his followers started Igbo cult. This is another proof. But this Igbos again are the Ugbos, not Ibos. Now, it was from there they began to attack Ile-Ife. From time to time, they'll get into town, take people, take things, Dagboru. And then, of course, without going into the details today, the story of Moremi then comes in, where she offered herself to be taken by the marauders, and they took her. By the way, at this time, some of them had moved to establish a town. Some of them were still living in Igbo. Anyway, because of course we were always moving until they got eventually where they now stay. So yeah, they captured Moremi, and then she went with them, got to their space, knew their secrets. I mean, the king liked her, beautiful woman. The king liked her, Anyway, after all the wale day, she discovers the secret. She knows exactly what the issue was, or how they were doing what they were doing, and all of those things. She finds a way. She escapes, returns to Ife, tells the elders of Ife, the leaders of Ife, Koto Shele, Bano Shenshio, Moriwono Dimora, Okinwon She, Ebora Won Shenkoben. so that the next time they came, if people were ready, they had fire and torches as they were coming. They threw fire on their bodies and dealt with them, and that was the end. And that's why we celebrate what we call Edi Festival every year in Ife. It has nothing to do with Igbo people. I wonder why the Obi of Onitsha was referring to it. This is the kind of disrespect we talk about. You're talking about a history you have no knowledge of, you are absolutely ignorant of, but you're going to bring it up because you're trying to find your own identity. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm angry, by the way, but I'm glad I'm not on camera. Anyway, so that's how Moremi issue came into play. Now, the Igbos, by the way, I'm Ife, okay? But there's nothing like, oh, I don't like Igbo. It's history. It's history, okay? If you have an ancient group, you must have had a lot of conflicts in the past. It's part of growth. It's part of evolution. Okay? And it's just that we can't change history. It's what it is. And it has happened. And they did what they did, you know, if they eventually, and even to today, they don't like Moremi. They call her a traitor. That's what they will call her now, which is okay. She's a heroine, like, forever. She has Kabesi installed a fantastic statue of Moremi in Ife. And if you have a chance to go to Ife, you should check it out. Like, beautiful space, beautiful. All right. So that's how that came to be. All of this to say that, and I think today I did something I didn't do the last time. You know, give us an idea of Ife. I'm going to have another session to talk about the political development of Ife. I don't know when, but I think understanding these things will help us appreciate, not just to say, oh, Ife was great, just to be clear, but beyond that is to actually appreciate the ingenuity of our fathers, of our ancestors, and maybe, not even maybe, you will get to pick something from what they've done. Like what I said about how they settled the issue now. There's some other things I did not talk about, how they arrived at a system, right? A series of conventions between all the parties that they had to adhere to, how they distributed powers, how they made sure power was not concentrated in one person, how they instituted the Ogboni. Our fathers were brilliant. I'm in awe. You read Yoruba history, you're just in awe of this elders, and they also included women. Okay. Even in the Ogboni court, which is the judiciary, they included women. In the palace of the king, the executive, they included women. Among the legislature, the people who actually say, okay, this is what we're going to do, they also had women. We are blessed, Yoruba people. All right, and we'll be having such conversations from time to time, but I hope this helps. Again, this is not because some people hate Igbo people, it's just that you can't rewrite Yoruba history. Igbos are Yoruba subgroup. We're part of them. History is history. Some funny things happen in the past, just like Kiriji War. It's part of history. And now we're building, all right? As Yoruba people, we're building a better future. We're building a better tomorrow. We're trying to make things a lot better for ourselves and the next generation. May God bless everybody in Nigeria, Igbo, Hausa, Fulani, TV, Idoma, and especially Yoruba, because I am Yoruba after all. But it's important for us to remember these things. Igbo, Igbo, Ugbo, Igbo. Those four things mean different things. Igbo is bush. It could also be marijuana. Okay? Cannabis. That's Igbo. Igbo is the same group as Ugbo. It's not one or the other. It's both. It's one and the same. They're the same people. The books we've read, you read them being referred to as Igbo. In some places, Ugbo. The reason for that is what we call dialectal differences. Some will say ule, ile, ushu, ishu, ulesha, ilesha, ufe, ife. I just spoke using Ife dialect right now. Anyway, so ufe, ife, the way we have that dialectal difference is also what we observe in Ugbo, Igbo. They are not Ibos. And I want that out of respect for our own Yoruba subgroup, the Igbo people, the people should actually spell Ibos as IBO. Not out of disrespect to them, but just to ensure that you are avoiding confusion so that people will not use ordinary spelling, which is actually quite primitive, ordinary spelling to lay claim on people's land. Absolutely ridiculous, but that's where we found ourselves in Nigeria. Anyway, I hope you've learned something about who is who in Ife. It's very late. I wish I could get people here, but I spent a lot of time teaching, so we are going to have to run. I want to thank everybody who has been here, whether in the comment section, tapping, liking, typing, writing stuff. Thank you for engaging. And I'm seeing something in the comment section. Someone says they learned everything from us, from politics to religion. I mean, it is what it is after all. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. Be Yoruba, be proud, love everybody, but hold on to what's yours. And self-preservation is not a crime. Don't be blackmailed in the name of Nigerian unity. You want Nigeria to jettison your own uniqueness and subsume your identity for people who would rather have what's yours. I don't do this thing where people say we are all one. I don't do that nonsense, because you can't say we are one to a person who wants to say we're not just one, I am the one. And that's what Zeke did, and that's what Obi of Onitsha did with that ridiculous history. And I hope he learns, and hopefully he doesn't repeat that mistake. But the crazy part is that still a lot of people just talking all kinds of things about Yoruba history. I'm like, you have no idea. There's a video somebody sent to me of a young chap just talking absolute nonsense. This is a person who doesn't know where his fathers are from, attempting to discuss Yoruba history. Yoruba history is deep. Okay, it takes a lot of study, and we'll get there. Like Barolong. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. Madam Osun, thank you, ma. God bless you, ma. Eshe. All right. Before we go listen to our anthems like we always do, the Nigerian anthem and also the Yoruba anthem. We'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so we'll be here 4 p.m. Time, West African time. So please join us. We're going to have a great time together. And like we always do, please engage the videos we have on YouTube, on TikTok, and I'm sure you're going to have a great time. First Sean says, exactly, sir, just how some Yoruba people spell Yoruba wrongly with H or R. Yeah, just spell Igbo as IBO. There is no, as a matter of fact, many of the books that we have is IBO, not Kosibe. And again, remember the stuff I read from D.N. Jones when he said this spelling you are changing is going to cause confusion in the future. It's causing it now. So let's try and remove that by having IBO. May God bless the Ibos, all the ethnic groups in Nigeria. May God bless everyone, and may God help them find what they're looking for. But I can assure you, whatever they're looking for is not in Yoruba land. God bless everybody. Thank you very much. Here is the Nigerian anthem. After this, I'll play the Yoruba anthem. Thanks a lot.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land, though tribe and ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ní ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára ọmọ òkàdìdé bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀.
Àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ogun adúláwọ̀, ìmọ́lẹ̀ wọ̀ ní wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́ o, Nàìjíríà náà ní bàjẹ́. Ilé ìwọ̀ náà wọ̀ ní bàjẹ́ wọn. Tábàdà wọlé ló máa yọrí sí rẹ̀ lágbára Ọlọ́run. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá máa gbèrú sí ni. Gbogbo nǹkan tá à ń rò lérògbà rèé fún ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ló máa wá sí ìmúṣẹ. Gbogbo so much for being here and thanks for being part of today's session. I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. And share one. God bless you.